Gamescom 2022, the biggest video game convention on Earth, is back in full force, and IGN is giving you a front row seat to the heart of gaming live from Germany.
Take a look at this.
Today we're taking a flying leap into Forspoken, sailing the high seas with Skull and Bones, getting medieval with a Plague Tale Requiem, unleashing some chaos in Warhammer 40k Darktide, and of course, trying not to cross the streams in Ghostbusters Spirits Unleashed. But there's tons more, and we're only just warming up. Day one of Gamescom Studio starts right now.
Peggy 12.
愚かな奴め。組織を裏切ることの意味は分かっているだろうな。私の正体を感じる者はこの世に存在してはならない。
去ってしまった者たちから受け継いだものはさらに先に進めなくてはならない。このジョルノ・ジョバーナには夢がある。
こいつ以上の覚悟があることをこいつ自身に見せつけるしかねえ。
だから要するに尾行されねえで帰ってくりゃいいんだろ。尾行によ。
このチンピラが俺を舐めてんのか。ウーノルーエじゃあ死ね。覚悟はしてきてんだろ。
もう一度よく考えろ。この世で矢を持つにふさわしいキングは誰か。お前も私の過去を暴こうとするものか。ならば消えてもらうしかない。
あんたから受け継いだ運命にびくついて逃げたりもしない。これが私の能力、スパイスガール。私はどうしても知りたい、自分が何者から生まれたのかを。はあ、許してはいけないわ。私の心にもこいつは許してはいけないと感じるわ。アリーベ・デルチ。
まだわかんねえのか、マンモーニ。兄貴、成長しなきゃ俺たちは栄光をつかめねえ。わかったよプロシュート兄。兄貴の覚悟が言葉でなく心で理解できた。
どんな攻撃だろうと超低音は触れればストップできる。逃がさねえ。アホリってどういうことだ。舐めやがってさあ、これが本物の超低音だ。ボケがふぬけ野郎が舐めてんのか。
そう、私だって戦えるのよ。
生き残るのはこの世の真実だけだ。
決して逃がしはしない。帝王は俺だ。
What's up, everybody? This is IGN Live at Gamescom 2022. I'm Damon Hadfield, along with my co-hosts Brian Altano, Stella Chung, and Max Scoville. Welcome to Gamescom.
Yeah! It's good to be back. For the next 5 days, IGN will be live from Germany, spotlighting the coolest gaming announcements, the best cosplay, and even handing out some awards to the best games at the show.
See, isn't Gamescom awesome? We just got a fresh look at JoJo's Bizarre Adventure All-Star Battle R, but we're just getting started because Gamescom is the literal biggest video game convention in the world, and it's packed with tons of awesome video game news and reveals, and we're very excited to bring them all to you. In the meantime, Stella, this is your first Gamescom ever, right?
Yeah, and it's incredible. There's so many booths to see. I haven't even seen like the other half of things, but that's okay because we are shooting my first vlog series, my first Gamescom, and it's awesome. I got lost yesterday wandering around the show floor, but I am prepared today, and I can't wait to see more because the energy here is just absolutely incredible.
That is so cool. And folks at home, if you'd like to see some cool stuff, well, let's take a look at our schedule. Because just today, in just a bit, we'll be checking out brand new gameplay of the Callisto Protocol, A Plague Tale Requiem, and Skull and Bones. And today, we've even got exclusive new looks at gameplay for some very, very big games, starting with Ghostbusters Spirits Unleashed, the brand new multiplayer game from Ilphonic, where 4 players team up to catch ghosts in first person, or you can play as the ghosts themselves and terrorize the Ghostbusters in third person.
Awesome. And if you like third-person action games, we've also got a ton of exclusive new gameplay for the big new Square Enix action RPG, Forspoken, about a New Yorker with magical powers?
Sure, yeah. Video
That's
games.
the new Forspoken and Ghost Pushers gameplay that you won't find anywhere else but here, so don't miss it.
On top of that, last night was opening night live, where we saw lots of really cool new game reveals. You'll see lots more of all that on our show this week. And if you want to keep up to date with everything coming out of Gamescom, make sure you're following the official Gamescom accounts on your social media platforms of choice. Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, Twitch, TikTok, and Discord. Gamescom is everywhere.
Gamescom is all around us. In just a second, we're going to take a look at the Callisto Protocol, but first, let's see what's going on out there on the show floor. What are you doing?
Hey!
Hello and a hearty willkommen from Gamescom 2022. We are checking out the Xbox booth today, which includes a 17-foot spider from Grounded that I am not excited to meet. But on the brighter side, there's also friendly robot friend Vasco from Starfield. And of course, a lot of games to play, including the one about Pinocchio with a massive sword. So for that and much more from Gamescom, stay tuned to IGN.
The Callisto Protocol is a terrifying new third-person horror game filled with derelict spaceships and horrible monsters, and frankly, I can't wait to play it. Here to tell me all about it is Mark James, Chief Technology Officer from Striking Distance Studios. Welcome to the IGN Gamescom stage here.
Thank you.
I'm super excited for this game. You've brought a new gameplay demo to Gamescom here, so set up this clip for us.
Yeah, so basically we want to show a bit more action. It's very interesting. Throughout what the clips we've shown up before, they've been very sometimes quiet and actually sneaking around the prison. We want to show the action parts of this game, so we put together a couple of clips that show a bit more of the way you use your combat and use the combinations of your combat. And then also a nice pipe slide, because what game isn't great without a pipe slide?
Pipe slides. There's a long, proud tradition of pipe slides.
There is.
in video games. Tell us about this environment here. This is some sort of a wood processing factory.
So there's a whole area where they grow kind of plants, like in a huge dome, in a biodome. Because they have to survive on this moon. So part of this is that they grow trees in there, and they have the prisoners process the wood. So they have this wood processing area, which sets us up for this lovely little gore fest with the wood chipper, which you'll be able to use environmental hazards throughout the game. Fans. You saw, I think, one of our other demos where Jacob got sucked into a fan. So you'll be able to use these environmental hazards as part of assisting you in your combat.
I feel like this would be a real environmental hazard. Alien invasion aside, the game is called Callisto Protocol, but the safety protocols in this environment, these open-air wood chippers, they just seem very dangerous.
The prison safety protocols are lapse in the Jovian system.
So we're seeing some of the unique weapons in this game. He has a weapon that can sort of pull enemies towards him. Talk about that a little bit.
So this is called the Grip. It was actually used by the guards as a prisoner control weapon. So they get it to use the prison and move the prisoners around from cell to cell. They can use it to push prisoners back in riot scenarios. So this is a repurposed guard weapon that Jacob finds and then uses to actually lift and push back. It will have its own power. It will have its own collection mechanism. You won't be able to use it all the time, but we wanted you to add that into this kind of almost ballet-like scenarios where you're switching between the melee to the grip to the ballistics, and you're using them in your own personal style, and it feels very natural to you.
Interesting. We're seeing the water slide moment here. Something to break up the action. Very cinematic, exciting set pieces. Is this the sort of thing we can expect to sort of pop up frequently throughout the story?
Absolutely. We'll have some cinematic experiences throughout. I mean, Glenn loves making these experiences, and also gives us some lovely little
good opportunities for this
lovely
sort
little
of
murder desserts as well.
Funny
with these that shows these unique scenarios in which you can fall into these environment hazards. Because these hazards, you can utilize them for the enemies, but they're just as hazardous to you as well.
What's the process? Just sort of coming up with these, kill gags, if you want to call them. Is there like a writer's room where you just sit around thinking up fun ways to do away with people?
Yes, we look at different ways you can die. And we've got a whole list of them, more than we had time to make. So hopefully we'll get some time over the lifetime of the product to add even more kill gags in there.
Oh my gosh, that sounds like that's got to be fun.
It is fun.
You're talking about mutations. Here at Gamescom. Tell us a little bit about that game feature.
So the mutations are, if you don't attack the enemies fast enough, if you don't dispense with them fast enough, they have the virus lives within them, and the virus is trying to protect itself. So the first you'll see are these tentacles that kind of like sometimes appear out of the chest or the head. They appear in different enemies at different times. And that's the first time when the virus is coming to the surface. So if you don't attack those tentacles fast enough, it will then, the whole enemy will mutate, and it'll get stronger, it'll get faster and more aggressive. So it's actually important for you to dispense with enemies quickly, or push them back using the grip, so they can actually push it away from you, and then you've got time to reload, maybe get prepared, and dispense with an enemy that's closer. So it's a very strategic view of looking what's going to mutate, how quick, how much time do you have, and this. But the mutations are something very different. We've had, each mutation is unique to each enemy type.
Okay.
And sometimes you can even shoot their head off and they'll grow a new head. So in the mutation.
Yeah, I think we see some of that in the footage here.
Yes.
Is there like a universal weak point that all the enemies have that you're trying to take care of? Okay.
There's not a universal. I mean, you can always shoot their limbs off. So that's always the quickest way. It's very difficult for them to attack with an arm when they don't have one. So that's always a universal disposing of their limbs. But if you don't hit the mutation fast enough, they could grow that limb back. So it's always a balance there. But we wanted to have enemies that were unique and challenging in their own every time.
And then when it comes to the weapons, is it true? I believe there's sort of workbenches that or the equivalent of a workbench that you come to. We can upgrade your weapon.
We have something called the Forge, which is the way you can upgrade your weapon, and it's a 3D printing technology.
Nice.
So we have on this prison moon. Resources are really hard to come by, so they've worked out a way in which they can mine the moon's resources and actually print the weapons as they need them. So you uncover these, so you can slowly upgrade your existing weapons, upgrade your baton, upgrade your pistol. There's some other more exotic weapons you'll find later in the game as well. And you can also just even upgrade your grip as well, so a lot larger lift times and more sustained lift times, so you can actually lift large objects in there. So we want to have a full upgrade mechanism, but we also didn't want to give you too much. This is still survival horror.
Sure.
And we want to make sure you're discovering everything, you're searching for every bullet, you're searching for every upgrade.
I think in some of the footage here, we saw some melee combat, maybe even some light stealth mechanics. So in the armory in the game, what's the sort of split between melee and ranged weapons?
We actually said we want 50-50. We really want you to have that there. We want you to be worried about the bullets you use.
Sure.
So we want you to use the bullets in extreme situations, in distance situations, to slow things down, remove limbs. But we wanted you to then engage in melee combat. So sometimes you might even use the grip to bring people towards you to then engage them in melee combat. So we wanted really a 50-50 balance. We didn't want either one to feel very overpowered at all. You will see in the video there was blocks as well. So if you constantly use the melee weapon, the baton on someone, eventually the monsters will just block you, and they won't be successful after a while. So you need to switch up and educate and try something different every time, because they're growing. This virus is growing within them, and they're educating themselves as the virus is growing.
Well, it sounds like there's going to be an interesting risk-reward mechanic where you don't want to get close to these things.
Absolutely.
But then you also don't have endless ammo, right? So it's like there's got to be a trade-off between using ammo, keeping them at a distance, or drawing them forward in order to conserve ammo.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
that sort of
You can draw them forward, but it's that risk. As soon as they're close to you, they can attack to you. If they mutate whilst they're close to you, they can actually attack you with the tentacles. It's risky being close to these things.
Is there a favorite weapon in the game that you can talk about at this point?
I love using the stun button.
Which one?
The stun button.
Oh,
So
okay.
I actually there because I'm a melee player,
Nice.
and it's very interesting to see different players come out within there. So I'm always the guy that's going in and trying to hit something with my big stick every time.
Ooh.
So
Well, I'm looking forward to hitting things with the big stick later this year. Callisto Protocol, I'm super excited for it. Genuinely, it's one of my most anticipated games. So thank you so much for coming by the show today.
Thank you very much.
The Callisto Protocol launches this December on PC and consoles. Keep watching IGN Live at Gamescom for more.
If we had no rat, we had no game, so we started with the rat, and when we were pretty sure that it was possible with 1,000, something like that, we said, okay, we are something, we can work on everything else, so we've started with the rats even before the characters.
A Plague Tale is nothing without its rats, like game director Kevin Chateau said.
If we had no rat, we had no games.
But how did the team at Asobo go about creating their unique rat tech for Innocence? And how have they pushed it further in its sequel, Requiem?
We wanted to tell a story about the plague, the Black Plague, because fighting a virus is not that easy in the game. So to do that, we took the popular image of the plague, which is the rats that are spreading the plague around the countries, which was not the case actually. We really loved that idea, but it means that we needed to have plenty of rats, thousands of rats, to make it believable. It was a good idea on paper, not technically, because again, it means thousands of rats on the screen. We've started with a few rats, like I would say, maybe 10 or 20, to see if we can have a believable behavior, having a rat wandering around, and see if we can have animation and things like that were believable at a good scale compared to the character camera. And when we had that, we say, okay, now how are we gonna replicate that into many rats, because one rat was already very costly in terms of performance. We started with more water simulation, but it was not working at all because it feels too fluid, like a particle, not a rat anymore. We've reimagined everything built up on what we've done with the gameplay to have a more authentic feelings. We've watched a lot of mouse or rats invading farms, strangely pretty close from how they can behave when they are in mass. It's pretty rare, so there's few footage of that, but you can see a crazy invasion of farm in Australia with mouse everywhere, and we are pretty close in terms of behavior. And we had to slow down the rats in our game compared to the actual mouse or actual rats, because they can be much more faster than what we do. So it was the main influence.
The foundational tech for the rats was in place, but how would this translate to gameplay? It's a question that continued to be answered in different ways throughout development.
At first it was like a floor is lava idea. You have rats everywhere and you need to find a way to cross it, so maybe light was a good idea, because medieval time it was hard to have a light, to maintain light, and it was the opposite of stealth, so it was a good idea for our gameplay, but that was it. And by playing with the rats and playing with the tech, we've discovered that it was already also funny to move the rats somewhere, to move the rats using Hugo's power, and to create crazy shapes like we've done in Innocence with those rat tornado. It took us time to figure out what we can do with the rats. The last thing we've done with the rats was the final fight against Vitalis, which was already pretty crazy and pretty last minute, I would say, in terms of development. But it was already building foundation for what we've done on Requiem, and it was just to try to prototype that on the end of Innocence, to see if it was a good tech for the second game.
But the team wanted to push it further in the sequel. Not just content with controlling the rats from afar, their dream was for the player to become one with them.
We wanted to assume what we've built up in the first one, so Hugo is able to control the rats, and it's not something that we will deny in the second one. But still, when Amicia is alone, the rats are not friends, not at all. And when she's with Hugo, Hugo is able to control the rat, but for a limited time, and it's dangerous. You will discover that. rat. Right now in Requiem we have much more than 300,000 rats on the screen, which is a lot compared to the 5,000 we had in Innocence. So we pushed the tech further and further and further. So it's quite impressive right now. They have their own behavior that is shared among other individuals. As I said, 300,000 AI, different AI. Their behavior is shared amongst few to optimize, but basically they have their own behavior. So you can isolate one rat and having him behave normally, or you can take 10 and they will behave differently from each other. I think it was like the team ID day one. Okay, a rat control like that it's cool, but it's not as cool as being the rats. It was something that we had in mind for the first one, but no time to develop it. Starting the second one, it was the first discussion about the game design. Let's control the rat and move them around. It will be crazy fun, and killing people directly will be much more visceral than distantly.
Without the specifically designed rat tech, there would be no Plague Tale. It's the engine that drives the whole machine, and something Chateau remains delighted with how it came together.
I'm proud of everything because it's a complicated tech, really based on engineering stuff that you need to understand as a designer, as a game director, as anyone in the team to really take advantage of it. So when you see it in the levels, I think it's a huge achievement. So yeah, I'm proud of everything.
300,000 rats may seem like a lot, but there are grander ambitions at Asobo. When asked where we can go next, Chateau responds with a chuckle.
I don't know, a million, I guess.
For more videos like this, make sure to check out our Plague Tale Requiem exclusive hands-on preview.
You just saw gameplay for A Plague Tale Requiem and the Callisto Protocol, two upcoming third-person action games where horrible creatures of various sizes try to kill you.
And in just a bit, we're taking a look at two games that couldn't possibly be more different. Pentiment, a 16th century murder mystery adventure, and High on Life, a first-person shooter where the guns talk to you, from Rick and Morty co-creator Justin Roiland.
But first, a very quick break. IGN Live at Gamescom will return with tons of gameplay right after this.
We promise.
Gamescom 2022 is presented by Samsung SSD, essential for gaming.
The only thing better than listening to IGN podcasts is watching them. Luckily, all your favorite weekly shows are here on IGN One. Whether you're chasing the latest Xbox releases with Unlocked, looking for your PlayStation fix with Beyond, tracking everything coming to Switch with Nintendo Voice Chat, or catching up on this week's gaming news with GameScoop, we've got you covered.
Check it out.
Tune in every weekday at 5 p.m. for the best gaming coverage right here on IGN One.
If you're not following IGN on social media, what are you waiting for? We're constantly updating our feeds to bring you the latest news, gameplay, custom original content, memes, the best user-generated videos and art, and a whole lot more. Be part of the conversation throughout the year. Follow IGN on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, TikTok, and Snapchat.
Everybody loves watching a speedrun of their favorite game, but what if you got a chance to peek into the mind of the developers behind those games as they watch their hard work get completely destroyed right in front of them?
What is happening right now?
That's exactly what happens on every episode of Devs React to Speedruns. We invite you to ride along with the developers as they watch, react, and enjoy some of the craziest gameplay by the most skilled speedrunners on the planet. Tune in every Saturday for a brand new episode.
The First Descendant is Nexon's new co-op action RPG shooter made in Unreal Engine 5 that transports players to a sci-fi world where they will unravel the secret behind the Descendant's power across various missions and raids in single-player and multiplayer. Let's take a look at what's in store for players during the First Descendant Steam Beta coming this October.
We always ask questions. What is it that actually exists? Where does the origin come from? Where are we headed to in the end? Feel confused. Just reload your gun.
Announced earlier this year, Pentiment is a murder mystery narrative adventure from Obsidian Entertainment set in 16th century Bavaria. Joining me now to discuss are game director Josh Sawyer and art director Hannah Kennedy. Welcome.
Hello, thank you.
So Josh, this is a game that you've been kind of kicking around and pitching for a pretty long time. How much has it sort of evolved to get where it is today? Like, I guess from your original idea to what is coming out this fall?
Yeah, it's evolved a lot. I mean, my original idea way back when I started in the industry in the late 90s, I wanted to make a game like Darklands, which is this early 90s historical fantasy role-playing game, and very, very different from what Pentiment is. I always knew I wanted to make a historical game of some sort. I went to college, got a degree in history. I thought it'd be really cool, but the form that took changed quite a bit over time, and it wasn't until about the time that Microsoft acquired Obsidian that I started thinking about making a historical game in the style of a narrative adventure game like Night in the Woods or Oxenfree or Mutazione.
Music to my ears. Now, fantasy is great and everything, but it's nice to get a little bit of history in there. Hannah, can you talk a little bit about the sort of art historical influences on this?
Yeah, definitely. So the game is set from an artist's perspective at a very specific time. So we reference the art of the time period pretty literally. We would look at the mediums that they were using, the compositions of images and printed books versus illuminated manuscripts, and find a way to combine aspects of each to use in context of the story, where the time period is this, transition period between when people were illuminating these books by hand and starting to print them, and how that was affecting society and the way that people thought about art. So because it ties in with the story so well, the art style of the game sort of being this meta experience of the art that was being made, made sense and had a lot of really interesting opportunities for what we could do with that kind of creatively in the game space. So we were referencing art history pretty directly throughout.
Nice. And I mean, the main character is an artist within the context. Is he based on any actual historical figure or artist?
Yeah, I mean, we were referencing Albrecht Dürer's self-portraits pretty specifically. It was a fun sort of, there were a couple artists of the time period to explore, but he has a lot of images of depicting himself, which is an interesting thing. We don't have photographs of people from that time period, so that's really the only evidence we have of, how they thought of their own image, what their own ideal self would be, and he kind of fit the age and the time period and the.
It's Durer. He's fun.
Yeah.
Yep.
Do you get to do a rhinoceros from someone's description of it at any point?
No spoilers.
Now, what's interesting about this is it's set over the course of 25 years, which I feel like is the kind of scale of the narrative you'd see in a novel, but it's kind of unusual for games, which they often sort of hand wave the passage of time. I guess, can you tell me a little bit about the pacing or sort of how that unfolds?
Yeah, so we were referencing, or in my mind I was referencing a Tarkovsky film called Andrei Rublev, which is about the titular character is a Russian monk who illuminates icons, and it's about a big section of his life over many, many years. And I thought it would be interesting to see not only one character kind of changing over that time, but also society and one community changing over that period of time. Because the game is also about a time of change. The early 16th century in the Holy Roman Empire, the Reformation was going on, the German Peasant War was happening. So there's a lot of upheaval, and seeing a community and an individual go through that change, I thought would be really interesting.
Now, your sort of reputation is for games where there's just consequences have value and weight. Can you tell a little bit about sort of without spoiling anything, I guess some of the cause and effect at play here?
Yeah, I mean, one of the most notable things, because it's kind of the most obvious, is each murder that happens, there are multiple murders that happen that you investigate, each murder that happens has a number of suspects that you can investigate, and they all seem equally plausible depending on how you look at it. You're not a real detective. There isn't a court of law that you would understand in a modern context. So when you kind of hand someone over as a suspect, you're kind of just using your best judgment, and we don't tell you who the real murderer actually is. It's whoever you really accuse of it. And when you do that in a small community, people understand that you're the person that put that. This is someone's friend or father or comrade, and so people react to that. You see changes within the community and also people's relationships with you. That's the most notable one, but also we try to do smaller tracking of little interactions that you have with people where they note the way in which how religious you are or how impious you are, and that will affect their opinions of you when you try to convince them to do things in the future. And that can actually be seeds that are planted 25 years in the past that then come to fruition much later.
Is it possible to just totally screw something up? I guess what is losing at this game look like? Is that a thing?
Not really. It's mostly about making the best of a bad situation and seeing what the consequences are. It's not really about, you're never going to see a game over screen.
It's not really trying to speed run it,
No, you're making choices within the story and seeing the consequences of it. Even the things we have that are mini games are not there for challenge. They're there just for kind of immersion in the story. So it's meant to be very light and easy. It's really there for the experience and the vibes. Just playing through and seeing how things go.
Nice. Now, Hannah, I love the aesthetic. Was there ever a moment where it looked more like your shirt, where it's more of the just black and white woodcut?
Yeah, I mean, we had a lot of exploration in the initial sort of experimentation with what we ended up with, but black and white was never in isolation something that we considered, I don't think, because it just would have been, clarity-wise, really, really difficult to work with, and because we were merging these two styles, where we did want to also reference the illuminated manuscript sort of look, the painterly look, that would have been very stark to transition between the two. So we have, some characters that are done in the more woodcut style, and you can tell the lines are thicker, it's a little more geometric, they're more modern in context of the story, and then with the older characters, especially in the first act, you'll see these crusty old monks, and they're done in this very painterly style, and even as they age, you'll notice the paint start to fleck off them a little bit, which is a fun little.
I love it. Well, one request, please do a Hieronymus Bosch game next. That's something I would very much like. Pentiment comes to PC and consoles, or Xbox consoles, this November, which gives you just enough time to brush up on your art history and mystery-solving skills, and there's plenty more Gamescom 2022 on the way.
So I am here at the Hyenas booth, and there is a photo booth over there as well. I think I jumped too fast. No! And I also see some guns, so I'm really hoping I get my hands on that because it looks super cool. Yeah, and it looks like it's some sort of tilted room thing. Oh yeah, exactly. So I'm gonna try to do some cool poses, but I can't hold them very well, so we'll see how it goes. But listen, I just want one of those guns, so let's go. So I have a gun, and I'm gonna try to jump and take some cool photos, but I don't know what poses I'm gonna do, so I guess hope for the best. Oh! I think it's cut off. Yeah. Ooh! Oh, that looks so cool! Oh my goodness!
You want the same thing on your phone?
Oh yeah, absolutely. So now we get the digital. So I can put it on Instagram and stuff, which is great. I got it! Okay.
look it, and then I can turn it around and stuff, so that's gonna be great. So I can make it look however I want. So this is what the pictures look like, and you get a series of props, and this is one of the coolest guns that you get. Like, you can actually feel the magazine and everything. You can see the details. Like, this is so cool. But yeah, this is how it looks in the end, so it makes you look like a badass.
Gamescom 2022 is presented by Saints Row. Be your own boss and take control of Santo Alesso.
I'm Akeem Lawanson, and this is What to Watch on IGN1. It's a weekly show where we check out the latest and greatest in trailers, reviews, and everything else in the world of entertainment. Tune in to new episodes every Friday at 9 p.m. on IGN1.
IGN is your go-to for the latest and best in games, movies, and television. And with over 50 million IGN subscribers, you're in good company.
Oh, we're shooting turkey.
Thanks to your help, we've raised over $100,000 for charity. Brought you and creators the world over together for events like Gamescom and DC Fandom.
Brenton Thwaites here. I play Dick Grayson.
And made your voices heard. You voted almost 30 million times in our best video game of all time and Super Movie Madness tournaments, and posted over 40 million times on IGN's message boards. The chat must flow. Catch our unending stream of up-to-date news and so much more over at IGN.com or subscribe to IGN on YouTube. And check out IGN Games and IGN Movies and TV for deep dives into your preferred pop culture. Plus, IGN guides to get help on veritably any game from our team of experts. No matter where you are, IGN.com, YouTube, Twitter, Facebook, or Instagram, IGN has you covered.
Hey you! Yes, you! Do you have FOMC? Fear of missing Gamescom? Relax. Gamescom is everywhere you want. Gamescom now. Register now.
What's up, everybody? I'm Stella Chung, and you're about to get your weekly fix. This is the show where we round up all the biggest gaming and entertainment headlines you won't want to miss. Tune into new episodes every Saturday at 12:30 p.m. Eastern and Pacific on IGN1.
Welcome back to IGN Live at Gamescom. Earlier this week, Jeff Keighley's Opening Night Live officially kicked off Gamescom with some big new game reveals. One of the most interesting games was Where Winds Meet, a bold new third-person action game with some awesome twists on the genre. Joining me now are Brian Altano, and all the way from IGN Israel, being updated in real time on the prompter, Danny Lee. Welcome to the IGN stage here.
Hi everyone, I'm very excited to be here actually on Gamescom and with you guys.
Yes.
And talk about this amazing game that we saw yesterday.
What a cool surprise, right?
This looks really cool. I think a lot of people are describing this as Ghost of Tsushima in medieval China, which works for me.
It's like Opening Night Live had, there was games based on Killer Clowns from Outer Space and Dune, and we saw Sonic, but like it was
too
so
many
cool
space games, by the way.
There was a lot of
space
this
games.
is a brand new IP, and I think that was such a treat. And I think the more this trailer kind of unfolded, the bigger and more grander this game just looks. It just seems like a massive undertaking, and it's just incredibly ambitious. I'm really excited for it.
Yeah, I wasn't expecting it at all, and the opening got me so excited. Look at the lyrics. It's very emotional, and you see the opening with the environment. I can't wait to see what it's going to bring, and you see the protagonist over there going wild. So I can't wait to see the whole gameplay and how it's going to work. I'm intrigued, and look at it. The graphic looks great, and it still needs to work. There's a lot of work to be done still, but I believe it's going to be very interesting to see the outcome. Look at her. It's magical.
Yeah, it opened up with a lot of cinematic stuff, which is really cool, and then eventually it got into gameplay, which feels like that trend is kind of going away these days, because we got a lot of cinematic trailers, but not a ton of gameplay with a lot of stuff, but this one jumped right into it. Now, Damon, this is like a studio that we don't really know a ton about, right?
Exactly.
Everstone?
Yeah, I actually I did some research, couldn't find anything about them. I don't think they have a website yet. So that's the one thing, this formula, I love Ghost of Tsushima, I love open world action RPGs, so tell me you're taking that formula, putting it in medieval China, that sounds great to me. the only question mark for me is sort of an unproven developer.
Yeah. I really like what's going on with sort of the interactivity. You'll start to see a little bit more gameplay open up here, where there's some like really interesting sort of magical mechanics, which you didn't really get into in stuff like Ghost of Tsushima.
I think there's going to be a little bit more fantasy in this than there was in Ghost.
It felt, though, there's a few moments that I saw that they have like kind of a Tencent's moves, like in Ghost of Tsushima, and the move of the camera is the same, like very cinematic, old school vibe, and I love to see the environment like more changing. Like I like to see it.
It reminds me of Gambit from X-Men, where he can kind of like weaponize things magically in his environment, and so we have this character just kind of like looked over, saw like a sword on the table, and was like, "I'll take that," you know.
I have a huge crush on Gambit, so if you're saying it,
Really?
I'm taking it all over.
Yeah.
Oh my god!
Get in line.
Yeah, this stuff is awesome. This reminds me of some of the verticality we saw in Sekiro, just like jumping up on a roof, running around, but like freezing enemies in place. Like you'll see this in a second. All these people jump up, and this character just goes like, bing, and boom, like they're just stuck. And I don't know how
you're going to stay that way.
How long do you have to stay? And then look, you jump right onto the cart, which is just awesome. Like, so there'll be some vehicular stuff, horseback riding, of course.
Yeah.
Can't have an open world game like that without this. But yeah, what was happening
What was
there?
there?
Like, and okay, so I have some questions.
Fish.
So this specifically, the character is a nuisance to.
Professions. One of them, for example,
animal botherers.
You can get poisoned by an animal out in the wild, but if you happen to be a doctor, then you have the skills you need to heal yourself.
Oh, so it gives you some skills to use. Oh, that's great.
So they're the characters not only running on water, but
so
also
here's the
like
more like fantastical element.
Oh, I love that moment. Like when they're blowing up the barrels. This is insane.
This seems like, again, crazy ambitious for like a developer that we've never heard a lot about before. But like this feels AAA to me, right? Like this is a big, huge game with a ton of interactivity, a ton of play choice and decisions, and I like how they're weaving in the cinematics and stuff like that too. Like it's just a very beautiful game.
But Brian, this is going to be some information that might be a tough pill to swallow for some. It's going to be plenty welcome news for others, but for you and I, this is currently only announced for PC.
What?
I know.
Just for now.
For now.
For now.
Hey, Everstone, do me a solid. Drag and drop this game onto consoles. I know it's super easy to do that. Just Control C,
right?
Control V on the
Save
PS5.
I play my games when I kick my enemies. That's what I did when chilling on the couch with all of them.
Because I have a Steam Deck, I can already hear that thing bursting into flames trying to run this game. So, like, this feels.
But this game deserves to play on huge TV. Kind of OLED TV, with everything.
It feels like properly next gen, right?
Definitely
I think we're finally at that point where we're letting go of the previous systems and we can get some big games like this. So
indeed.
Let it go.
Let it go.
Let it go. Oh, that's a good idea for a song.
Yeah,
we should do that. The game is called Where Winds Meet. It's just one of the new and exciting games that's been announced here at Gamescom this week. Opening Night Live was packed with big gaming news. So is IGN's Gamescom coverage, which we're going to keep going right here. In fact, here comes some right now.
Whoa!
We're on our way to the AEW booth. That camera guy. I'm so excited. Oh my god, there isn't a lot of people yet. So I'm hoping that I can see all the cool stuff before everyone gets in line. Yeah, this is gonna be so cool. The Xbox booth is right there. This is happening. It's so cool. Hello everyone, I am Stella Chung and I'm here at the AEW booth, joined by Cole and Christopher. I'm so excited. Now, are you going to teach me any beginner moves now that we're in the ring?
Right away, that's what you want to know. The beginner moves. We do have moves. That's what you want?
I want to do some crazy shit. Let's go.
You know how to do a test of strength?
I don't. What is that?
Standard wrestling maneuver.
Here, let Colt show you how it goes.
Hands are up, and you lock. And then it's a test.
Oh!
Yep.
You want me to test out my gamer wrists?
Test out your
Okay.
Yeah, if they're good.
That's
Okay,
it. You
all
got to
right.
push down.
All right, push.
There you go. Oh, yeah. She's got it.
You know what? He was really gentle, but I could tell that he was holding back a lot, and if he pushed a little bit more, it definitely would have hurt.
What if I?
Okay.
Oh, I can't. Okay, good. And then you have.
Oh my god, that was amazing. It felt really cool up there. I wish I could have jumped around a little bit more, but honestly, I think I get it. It's fine. I got it to be in an arm lock. I think that's the best thing ever. By Christopher? Hell yeah.
Literally just take this wrist and pop it up here, and just right behind the back, and then just start twisting this way, and then ask her where her wallet is. Got any cash I can borrow? Some help?
No.
Yeah, there you go.
You feel the pressure on your shoulder?
That's so
See,
cool.
I wouldn't twist too hard because I'm a gentleman. My mom would be very upset if she found out I was hammer locking a young lady at the building.
Okay, can you guys show me a move? Like, can you do something? I mean, obviously you were being nice to me, but like, can you not be so nice to him?
We can do a lockup, a good little Jack Briscoe lockup for all the fans.
This is how all matches would start. And in this match, Christopher Daniels and I are friends. We're not looking to hurt each other. This is just a gentleman's
lockup. A gentleman's lockup.
Okay, all right.
I thought we were friends.
Oh, that's amazing.
That got tight.
Oh my
that
God.
got tight.
So I have to ask, are you excited for the launch? And I think it was teased it's going to be this year, but are you excited?
Okay, I thought you said, are you excited for lunch? And I was like, yes. We just talked about it. THQ is very excited.
Yes, I'm very hungry right now.
Yeah, I'm super excited for launch. The game looks amazing, just the demo that's been put out, and we've gotten to see a couple extra sneak previews. The gameplay, the idea that Ukes is on board, and THQ Nordic, it looks so fun. And also, it's like AEW started about this like cult underground wrestling scene. The wrestlers on the indies, the guys and girls and people who just weren't getting like all the love, and then to just see all of us on this giant platform with some money behind it and some marketing behind it, and also like I feel with Kenny Omega leading the front, like he's making sure that this will be amazing, and it's so important to him, where I don't know in any other wrestling game ever that like a top wrestler was like, this is a priority. So that alone makes this super exciting, and I think everyone's anticipating it.
That's awesome.
Absolutely. Kenny had a lot to do with the vision of the video game, and I feel like the games that he wanted to play, or the games that he played coming up, that sort of influenced the way that this video game is going to look, and I feel like this is going to be very different from all the other wrestling video games out there, and the fact that it's the very first AEW video game, but the beginning of a very successful franchise, I hope. I look forward to not just this game, but how this game progresses and grows over the years.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, some people prefer watching AEW over any other wrestling shows, so that's got to feel a little bit good.
All of the people.
There's a good amount of people that feel that way.
Thank you all for talking with me. And showing me some moves. That was really cool. I'm definitely going to beat some people into submission with that one.
I have a question for you.
Yes.
We heard a rumor you were in the cosplay competition.
I am.
Will you be dressing as me? Because I have an outfit.
Do you? Oh,
I have two outfits, yeah.
Can we get a bald cap for me? I think we need to do that. I think we need to do that now.
If I had hair like yours, I would not cover it up. For crying out loud. No, keep your hair. Definitely some sort of gel or baby oil just to make it glisten and gleam. But other than that, I think you're good. I think
some push-ups or some bands before you get up on.
You know what? Yeah, my legs are exposed, so I'll do some squats and just like get the quads looking great.
Trick to the trade you wouldn't have known had you not come and talked with us here, and that's what we as AEW performers can do for you. Yeah.
Okay, so the tips for cosplay don't really help me out with my Genshin Impact character because I don't think I'm going to be able to get baby oil. But I mean, if I ever want to play, like if I ever want to cosplay a really buff character, that kind of works out. I can go hit the gym, get my baby oil on, and I'll be set.
We're all about exhibitionism, so we know exactly what we're talking about.
All right, great. So we're going to go get some baby oil, and thank you so much for talking with me.
Thanks for having us.
Gamescom 2022 is presented by NHTSA. Drive sober or get pulled over.
Tune into IGN 1 for the latest news on your favorite releases, gameplay exclusives, and all the entertainment you can handle. And maybe even some you can't.
Cinefix on IGN 1, your friendly Friday night home for film fanaticism.
You're watching The Weekly Fix, ready to fill you in on anything you may have missed in the world of gaming and entertainment.
Find it all in one place on IGN 1.
They turned into a network. Who knew?
IGN Playlist is all of your games in one place. You can build your library and discover new games. Create and follow playlists from friends. Access guides for what you're playing. And rate and rank the games you love to share with the world. Available free with your IGN account. It's for players, no matter where you play.
You're a busy gamer with plenty to play. Not a lot of downtime, but you still want to keep up with the latest gaming news? Fret not. No matter where you like to play, PC, PlayStation, Nintendo, Xbox, I've got the headlines you need to know about. When Half-Life 3 is announced, it'll be on the Daily Fix. When the Switch Pro is announced, you'll be the first to know. And when that big game you just can't wait for is delayed, yeah, I'll have that news too. The Daily Fix, with me, Nars, weekdays only on IGN.
If you're not following IGN on social media, what are you waiting for? We're constantly updating our feeds to bring you the latest news, gameplay, custom original content, memes, the best user-generated videos and art, and a whole lot more. Be part of the conversation throughout the year. Follow IGN on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, TikTok, and Snapchat.
Let's get on the roof. Okay. It takes some practice, you know. Saints Row is finally upon us, and it's time to head to Santo Ileso and build our own gang and lead them to the top of the criminal food chain. In anticipation of the game, I've already spent hours creating my own original custom character in Boss Factory, and now it's time to take them to the streets and cause some mayhem. Presented by Saints Row. We're going to be jumping into one of the early missions of Saints Row with none other than the creative director of Saints Row, Brian Traficante. Brian, thank you for joining us. What are we getting ourselves into today?
At this point in the game, the Saints are busy with their plan to start and spread their criminal empire throughout the city. In this mission, Kevin the boss are going to go and make a statement with the idols. They're going to get the respect that they've been looking for in the city, and the best way to do that is to eliminate some of the collective leadership that runs the group known as the idols.
We steal the Hummingbird Codex. Marshall wanted to protect it. Panteros and the idols wanted to steal it. And if it wasn't for that book, we wouldn't have formed the Saints. It should be ours.
I like it. How do we do it?
I mean, I figured we'd just go in with a bunch of guns and kill the out of everybody. But if we want to do some heist movie stuff, I can work with that.
Yeah, that's cool. Guns work.
Sounds good.
All right, so Kevin and I are off to go steal this exotic book to get some respect for the Saints.
Right, that's the Hummingbird Codex, which is a bit of a trophy in the city. The factions have been fighting over it. The Panteros were smuggling it when you captured it while you worked for Marshall. The idols stole it from you, and now you're going to steal it back from the idols.
Now, I want to point out this gun isn't exactly just off the shelf. This is a fully upgraded hand cannon with a signature
ability. Yeah, each weapon has a challenge. When you complete that challenge, if you go back to the friendly fire or a weapon cache, you can upgrade to use that signature ability. Maybe it's extra damage, it could be bleed effects, damage over time, really fun additions and alterations to weapon behaviors. Oh, crap!
Oh, right on.
We took a different approach to wingsuiting, and we wanted it to not overtake driving. We wanted these two mechanics to work well together and not have one be stronger than another, right? Because if you could just wingsuit, then why would you drive? So this will get you up in the air and give you a bird's eye view. It's great for exploration. It's great to get away from notoriety. Super useful tool.
What did I shoot? Was that like a... Oh, spray paint.
Okay, we call them chaos props. They're scattered throughout the game, and you'll have a quick trigger, a Y, if you're playing on Xbox controller, and it will take a single shot, auto-target, and create some piece of chaos in the scene. Usually it's a dynamic object that'll bounce around or something that'll explode. It's a nice way to get some advantages in combat.
Fireworks, why not? Yeah. Now, in addition to the idols, what are some of the other factions we'll be dealing with?
Right, so we've got a faction known as Los Panteros, and they're like the strength faction of the game. Brutes and brawlers, people that are from Cento originally, and they put all of their energy into just being as strong as they possibly can be. You'll see it in their weapons, you'll see it in their vehicles, anything about shows of strength. And we also have Martial Defense Industries, which are a PMC of sorts, inspired by what we've done in Saints Row 3 with Stag. They've got bleeding-edge technology that they deploy to their recruits, and when you fight them, you see them being more tactical, more professionally trained. They'll throw out smoke grenades, they'll use laser sights and things like that. So every faction has a pair of specialist combatants. This is the Raver. She'll use her point sticks to deflect incoming bullets, so you gotta time your attacks or get behind her.
I had a feeling there'd be some nautical misadventures involved with this.
Yeah, throughout the missions, we like to utilize as many different mechanics and opportunities for the players to experience the whole breadth of adventures and journey for the Saints, for the players.
Now, do you have any tips for people who are checking out this Saints Row as their very first Saints Row?
Be ready to have lots of fun and dig in. So the idols like to commandeer and take over parts of the city. This is one of their mini HQs, a yacht. They've also got a mansion that they hold a lot of their key activities at that the player visits earlier on.
All right, so we're going to blow up a yacht.
Yeah, time for a little payback.
It's hot. Run!
Oh, that's the collective. They've got some tricks up their sleeves, too.
Advance for the collective!
Now, are we talking at all about sort of how this exists within the larger Saints Row universe? Are there going to be any sort of, you know, aside from Jim Robs being a spoonerism of maybe a popular establishment, any other kind of callbacks or Easter eggs we could be on the lookout for?
Absolutely Easter eggs. We are proud of our past and we love it. And if there's an opportunity to bring players along a journey like that and laugh with some references, we love to do that. So yeah, you got to look carefully. You'll see some very familiar stories.
Now tell me about co-op.
Yeah, the whole game is playable with untethered two-player co-op. In missions, activities, diversions, anything. Much like we've done in the past, we have to do a sync. We bring players together in any modal content. We put them into that mode, and then when we exit back in the open world, they're completely untethered. One of the great things we've added to the co-op is an exclusive co-op feature called pranking. Each player gets a unique challenge, and when they complete that challenge, they could prank the other player. Pranks look like swarm of flies, swarm of bees around the player for 5 minutes. But some of the best things you could do is actually change the player model into a toilet, a garbage can, a mailbox. And those things will actually animate and talk in cinematics. And when you're one of these objects, you can shoot, you can drive, you can do anything that you would do normally. It's so much fun.
Turn your friends into toilets. I'm in support of this. Now, you've got, of course, a bunch of side activities that are coming back. There's insurance fraud, and there's mayhem, there's familiar stuff like that. Can you tell me about some of the new additions?
Yeah, so we've taken the traditional activity and we broke them into these 14-player ventures that you can build. And those range from different types of scavenger hunt, types of gameplay, melee-focused combat in our dojo, where you'll build a karate dojo and you'll have to take on the rival karate schools. Also in Chalupa Cabra, it's a mix of ranged combat and vehicle combat, where you're taking over a drug network via food trucks. So we've taken a lot of the mechanics in the game and we distributed them across all these fun ventures. Every time you build a venture, you get new gameplay in the city, and as I said before, there's 14 of these. And you get to choose which ones that you want to place and, and where they go in the city.
Cool, and it's all in the name of kind of just growing the Saints empire.
Exactly.
Collective HQ? Yeah, I'm sure that was it. Talk about a goddamn statement. Hells yeah, buddy. Hells yeah.
All right. Brian, thank you so much for joining me, and thank you to everyone at home who watched this video. For everything Saints Row, you are already in the right place, IGN. Now, time for more crime.
Dun, 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 dun,
Great
dun,
song.
dun.
That's my
Welcome
wedding
back
song.
to IGN Live at Gamescom. All week long we'll be live from this studio and the Gamescom show floor, showing you tons of brand new gameplay for the biggest, coolest, and craziest games of the show.
That's right.
Now, some of these games won't be out for a bit.
No, many years, in fact.
Sometimes. So if you want a little something to play right now, well, we've got you covered. Gamescom Epics is a community treasure hunt happening on Gamescom's official site throughout the show. Complete quests and help Epi in his fight against the evil bugs to win attractive prizes. Collect experience points, level up, and win rewards. Gamescom Epics, check it out with the QR code below.
There it is, right there. Oh, and if you're sitting at home trying to keep track of the thousands of upcoming games that you're most excited about, or you feel like making a list of your favorite games you're currently playing, check out IGN Playlist. It's a brand new tool from IGN that lets you build and view curated lists of the games you love, or the games you can't wait for, or games you're scared of, whatever you want. Make a list. Head on over to playlist.ign.com and get started.
But for now, we've got even more brand new games to see and talk about right here at Gamescom. Let's take a look at some of the awesome games we've got coming up. In just a bit, we'll take a crack at Moonbreaker, the ambitious new game from the publishers of the Subnautica series. And after that, we're getting another look at Skull and Bones, the massive ship battling game from Ubisoft.
But right now, it's time to get into the trenches with Isonzo, the follow-up to the hit World War I shooter, Verdun. So, take a look.
We're at Gamescom and we are chatting historically accurate shooter Isonzo, and I'm here with Jos, creative director on the game.
Thanks for having me, Matt.
I think one of the interesting things that we'd like to start with is the World War I series has been going for a few years now, but it's maybe kind of like not as well known as the bigger shooters like Battlefield. So I'd like what kind of shooter is Isonzo?
Well, the World War I game series is a hardcore, realistic shooter series of games. It focuses on World War I as a theme, and each installment of the game tries to craft a game around the front that it represents. For Verdun, we chose to really represent the trench warfare back and forth. Tannenberg, really the encirclement battles of the Eastern Front. And for Isonzo, we try to represent the mountain warfare and all the aspects that come with that.
So, as you said there, like Isonzo is interesting because it's set like in the Italian Alps, right? Which is a very, very different. Like we've seen a few World War I games in the past which tend to focus on much flatter ground. The Italian Alps is a very different battlefield. So, can you explain kind of what challenges does a player get by being in that environment?
Verticality. The Italians typically fight uphill most of the battles that we represent. So the Austrians have literally have the high ground. That creates a very interesting dynamic where, as an Italian, you constantly have to be careful where you walk, and the danger can come from many directions. Even so, like at that altitude, is there still an element of that trench warfare, or is it a completely different experience? No, the trench warfare is still very much part of the of all our games. The specifics of the Italian front are, of course, that the trenches are all sort of chiseled out in the landscape. Yeah, they're still there. They haven't been eroded like on the Western Front. It sort of erodes over time, and here it's very much still present. I imagine the fact that they're still there must have been very useful for like you being able to visit and do the historical accuracy of these maps. Exactly, yeah. We visited several of the locations where we've been making into maps. For this game, we really chose to make the levels as accurate as is possible within, of course, the realms of what you can do in a first-person multiplayer shooter experience. And in terms of that historical accuracy, the reputation of the series is that it's quite a realistic to the era, which obviously means that the tactics that were used in World War I is very, very different to other wars. It's much more kind of wars of attrition and slightly slower paced. So what kind of tactics will players be using as they fight in these maps? For the levels is that each map is divided into 2 to 6 sectors deep. The defenders can first fortify their sector, and after a certain amount of time, the attackers let loose on the sector. Well, what you will get is that the attacking side has to cross their trenches in large numbers because they get picked off quite easily with machine guns that have been placed by the defenders. Tactics going on there of trying to cut the barbed wire under fire, throw grenades, suppress the machine guns, fire mortar rounds, and then advancing. So you have a lot of that going on. That sort of simulates the trench warfare, simulates the mountain warfare through the maps, and the attackers, of course, have to go through all the sectors to win.
It sounds incredibly stressful, which is, you know, what obviously all wars are very stressful, but World War I in particular was known for being, you know, so horrendous. And it sounds like you've really captured kind of the intensity of these battles. In terms of where you've drawn like your inspiration from, kind of what actual battles will we be able to like recreate in the game?
The Iron Front stretches from Switzerland to the Adriatic Sea. And most of the battles took place near the coast, on an area known as the Carso. It's a very arid and desolate, rocky landscape. And we really try to put a lot of emphasis on the battles that took place there.
The other thing about World War I we know is that obviously kind of like large amounts of troops that are involved in this. You've mentioned obviously that these are battles that had maybe less troops than we'd expect maybe on a Western Front offensive. But how does that translate into player counts? How many players are going to be per match?
Yeah, so it's always a challenge of representing, you know, these battles with hundreds of thousands of troops in a multiplayer environment in an accurate way. Our maps are relatively condensed, but very intense. For Isonzo, we felt that 48 players is actually already enough simulate the intensity of combat.
One of the other things that's really important, obviously, in a shooter is how good your gunplay is. Can players that are kind of like familiar with games expect like an improved combat experience this time around?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. We created a new system for inverse kinematics to really make the guns a lot smoother in terms of, you know, if you're running around and from sprinting into sight, that's a very smooth transition.
The attention to detail is incredible. It's so like, I was recently at a war museum and like I've seen these things in real life, and being able to see them in the game is very, very cool. But it's not just the weapons that are historically accurate. We'll go down to the fact that you've got a historically inspired flare system, right?
Yeah, the flare system is based on also on history. Of course, you had a very complex flare system in real life where you fired different colors of flares and different formations. Fire 2 flares to signal that we've captured a trench. 3 flares for more artillery fire. I mean, there's a whole handbook with the signal core exactly what this all meant. We've condensed it in our game to a somewhat simplified system where you can fire one flare and it's sort of where it hangs in the air. Directly below it is the designated target for officers to use as a point to call in their barrages.
And then in terms of obviously it's a multiplayer shooter. It's very much its own style of multiplayer shooter. But there are things that people that have played other games like Battlefield and stuff that will find familiar. I guess the class system is probably the one that might make sense to someone who's never played a World War I game before, but how do your classes work? Have they got like a unique slant to them as well?
Yeah, absolutely. We have a unique Mountaineer class, which is able to traverse the level faster and has unique weaponry and, of course, a unique appearance. For the rest of the classes, we have a dedicated Engineer class for building, Assault class, which can carry more grenades. A Rifleman class is dedicated to operating rifles more accurately. There's only 2 officers available per side. Officers can set points, attack specific areas on the map, as well as using their trench whistle, call in more reinforcements at a given time. The spawn time gets reduced to 0. But there are limits to the amount of people that can take a certain class. So the Sniper class, for instance, is limited to only 3 or 4 players. Within that, we also have a limit on the amount of weapons that can be used. So in order to make sure not everybody picks the Sniper, the scoped sniper rifle, there's a limit on the amount of people that can actually use the scoped sniper rifle. So otherwise, with the Italian front being so open, the snipers would reign supreme. Everybody would walk around with a sniper scope. It's really overpowered. So we really try to find a balance here between historical accuracy and gameplay fun as well. Of course, not everybody had a scope rifle to begin with. Those were rare. Same goes for the submachine guns. So I say submachine, light machine gun, the Villa Perosa, which had odd dual magazine guns, felt sort of in between submachine gun and light machine gun. But those are limited as well in there.
I'm just pleased that you're curbing the snipers because they're often my worst nightmare. Jos, thank you so much for telling us everything about Isonzo. When can we expect it?
September 13th on PC, PlayStation 4, 5, Xbox.
Thank you, Jos. It's been great to chat to you.
Hi, I'm Matt from IGN here at Gamescom on the show floor, where I've just seen 15 minutes of the Callisto Protocol. Now, this was a little bit of what everybody saw at ONL, but with a bit more, very much focused on those mutations that we saw in that short clip at ONL. Now, the mutations are a way that, whilst the Dead Space vibes for Callisto Protocol are definitely through the roof, we definitely think that the game is treading its own path, it's being something different, and these mutations are part of that. In the demo that I saw, as you came in, there was graffiti on the wall saying shoot the tentacles, and that's something you're definitely going to want to do. Because when enemies have tentacles hanging out of them, that's a symbol that they're going to mutate. Now, mutations kind of like, they don't massively change the difficulty of the game, but they definitely make that enemy a little bit different. So an enemy that doesn't have a head or doesn't have an arm can grow a new arm, a new head, and become slightly more challenging than they were before. So it's very much you want to shoot those tentacles before all the mutation goes on. However, if you don't get there, Glenn Schofield, the director on the game, was telling me how you've still got plenty of options on what to do with that. You can use the grip, which is the anti-gravity weapon, to pick them up and throw them into kind of meat grinders and fans. There's lots of environmental stuff going on that's going to help get through those mutations. It's going to make that just a little bit easier for you. But also, behind closed doors, we also saw the new weapons upgrade system, which is basically almost like, think of the workbench from The Last of Us Part 2, where you're physically putting items onto a gun. It's that, but in like a sci-fi environment. It's a 3D printer. There's what looks like a really huge map of different upgrades for your guns, and you get to turn your guns into kind of tailor it for what you need. So when you learn about those mutations and you learn that there are specific things you want to do with them, it looks like upgrading your guns to be part of that kind of like gameplay loop is going to be a big part of it. Also, in terms of that kind of making it a bit more different from Dead Space, what we're definitely seeing is more of kind of like that physicality, whereas Isaac in Dead Space was very much about using his engineering tools to dismember and destroy people from afar. There's much more kind of physicality in that you get a big stun baton. It's very much kind of got that prison punk almost style, and you're using the baton to smash into your enemies, taking their arms off. I was told that there is apparently a creature that has two heads that you can cleave right down the middle, turn it into two. And so like I think that kind of like added element of like there's a lot more hand-to-hand combat going on in this game makes it feel like, whilst I think it's going to appeal to a lot of people that love Dead Space, this is definitely taking its own take. That's everything from the Callisto Protocol that we've seen on the show floor here at Gamescom, but we've got more coming up. We've got Glenn Schofield being interviewed on the IGN stage, and plenty more from Gamescom at IGN.com.
Gamescom 2022 is presented by NHTSA. Drive sober or get pulled over.
Hey, you! Yes, you! Do you have fun? Fear of missing Gamescom? Relax. Gamescom is everywhere you want. Gamescom now. Register now.
In a world with non-stop news about Marvel, Netflix, and Star Wars, you need a show with accurate reporting, hard-hitting commentary, and me. I'm Akeem Lawanson, the host of The Fix Entertainment. Whether it's the latest superhero scoop, film fiasco, or anime announcement, I'll be right here covering all the latest in major studio headlines and pop culture news. Make sure to catch The Fix Entertainment wherever you watch IGN.
Tune in to IGN1 for the latest news on your favorite releases, gameplay exclusives, and all the entertainment you can handle. And maybe even some you can't.
Cinefix on IGN1, your friendly Friday night home for film fanaticism.
You're watching The Weekly Fix, ready to fill you in on anything you may have missed in the world of gaming and entertainment.
Find it all in one place on IGN1.
They turned into a network. Who knew?
The team at Fat Shark has already earned the trust of Warhammer fans and gamers alike with the Vermintide games, and the next co-op action game makes the jump from fantasy to sci-fi. Here to tell us about Warhammer 40k Darktide, I'm joined by lead combat designer Mats Anderson. Mats, thank you for coming by.
Thanks. Thanks for having me.
So I want to talk about this. Darktide, the sort of reveal trailer, you had 4 guardsmen who are kind of more conventional, units you'd see in battle. Yep. More recent reveals we've seen that this is a band of misfits.
Yep.
But there's another wrinkle, which is that there's character creation on top of that.
Yeah.
People really love the heroes in Vermintide, which were kind of bespoke. Can you tell us about how sort of character creation balances out with having these characters be their own characters?
With all the other things. I mean, basically, it has 2 different ways of telling the story, right? Like, we know that for Vermintide, people love the Uber Strike 5, and it's a very bespoke story of telling their thing, right? For this, we want to have a very kind of human perspective on what is the 40k very epic kind of setting, right? So for you to be able to come in, create the lowliest of the low, prisoner on a prison ship being forcefully recruited and used as a meat shield effectively by the Inquisition, and the journey from that place into a fully fledged, accepted agent acolyte of the inquisitorial kind of strike team is what Darktide at a personal level is about. Now, there are other threads in this where we also tell the story of the world and the kind of larger narrative that goes on, but for you as a player and for your character, it's all about, like, where do you start with, like, here's a little rusty lasgun, good luck, right?
Work your way
to
up.
getting to that, like, I have a fully kitted uniform and I have the fancy weapons, and now I've found my crew that I play with, and kind of go forth and prove yourself.
Cool, but they will have their own kind of personalities.
Yes, definitely.
Yeah.
So, I mean, throughout character customization, we try to infuse a bit of story and narrative. You have this whole setup with, where are you from, childhood formative things, how did you end up as a prisoner? Like, you build a bit of a backstory that also caters into the VO and banter between the characters. And I mean, it's basically, for people who are not into that sort of thing, it's something that you can kind of click past, but it still gives you, I mean, I tend to build a lot of characters when you sit and work because you need to set them up and try them out, but you always kind of stop yourself going like, oh, this guy is from an industrial thing, and he had, that's sad,
cool.
That sort of thing. But
now, we've got some exclusive brand new gameplay here.
Yep.
There's a lot going on here. This is, we saw a very big creature, which some sort of Nurgle henchman. Is that a full-blown great unclean one? It was earlier.
Yeah, no, it's the plague ogrins. We have a lot of ogrins in this game, and I mean, a plague ogrin is basically a bioweapon of the arch enemy. They take an ogrin that is already a huge guy, that is really resilient and really tough, and infuse him with every virulent bacterial pox, and then just throws him into a place where you want people to get really sick and infected, or as they call it, blessed with the blessings of Nurgle, right?
Now, Warhammer 40k is very, very deep lore, and the game has attracted millions of players, and this is a very different perspective. It's a very action-packed first-person shooter, which is a long walk from arranging armies on a table.
Yes.
I think this has attracted a lot of the attention of a lot of gamers who maybe wouldn't normally gravitate towards 40k. For complete 40k noobs, what do they need to know before jumping in here?
I mean, not a lot. I mean, it's one of the things that we try to work into the game, since we want to build a solid game and a solid kind of experience. And through the kind of introduction of your character and build-up of your character, we do explain a lot of things. It's one of the things we found with earlier games where, of course, we're going to get all of the kind of Warhammer fans and 40k fans to come in, and you do have quite a lot of little Easter eggs or little snippets that you're going to pick up on that is nice for them, but we tend to see a lot of other gamers come in and be attracted to the Warhammer brand through the games, and it's always cute to see those posts on the forums where it's like, this seems like a cool world. Are there any more narrative things? And then someone posts a 60,000 page wiki. Yeah, this is the baseline that you need to chew through to get it.
Yeah. Now you're working with Dan Abnett's doing the story, right?
Yep.
He's done a lot of 40k writing. Are there any, for people who are familiar with his books, are they going to spot some
Easter eggs, familiar stuff like that? Or?
I am not at liberty to say, as we say in Sweden. But yeah, for sure. I mean, he's been a huge inspiration, if nothing else, to kind of set the perspective I was looking for. A lot of the people, as I say, in the studio are very happy because we've read all his books already and most other Warhammer books. So to basically use his perspective that he uses in a lot, both in the Guns Goats stuff and Eisenhorn and the others, to kind of set the original perspective here. Because as you say, we're not trying to do the tabletop super epic thing. We are trying to zoom in and then zoom in some more and then zoom in and look at what does a Hab one-room apartment in a Nurgle-infested part of a hive that you run into look like, right?
Yeah. Now, I've seen some debate online about people who, you know, really familiar with the lore, and they're like, I don't know if this squad of rejects would be able to take on like a Daemon. Like, are they? I guess, how do you find that balance between what makes sense within the lore and keeping this, you know, canonical, but also allowing for like a fun, bombastic video game?
Yeah, I mean, there's always a balance, and I mean, I think we follow the rule of cool or the rule of fun to a degree, but I mean, we put quite a strain on ourselves whenever we talk about enemies or talk about setups or with whether or not that would be plausible from a kind of lore perspective. And I think we spend too much time doing it because we have this, you know, we work together with Games Workshop and they are awesome and great to work with, but we check everything with them. But before we check with them, we check with ourselves and say, like, would it be like how many last gun shots on average should it take to kill one of these guys? And we reference the tabletop and we reference the role-playing games, and you know, playing the tabletop games, you can always roll a 6. So it's possible, but I think, I mean, we are definitely on the let's add a couple of more enemies for fun rather than keep it super realistic.
But those debates that happen in the forums are happening internally as well.
Yeah, of course. But I mean, I do think one of the charms of the game is that we're not picking the big things, right? We are like focusing in on like individual poxwalkers that are like, you know, horde enemies on the tabletop that you have to have lots of, and doing that.
Great. Warhammer 40k Darktide is hitting PC on November 30th and Xbox Series X and S shortly thereafter, and I'm dying to see more of it. I have like 8 more questions here we didn't get to. We have lots more Gamescom coming up. Stick around.
Hello, I'm Joe Screbbles, and I'm joined by Matt Purslow.
Hello.
He said hello. And Matt here has just played Warhammer 40,000 Darktide. Matt, we know this comes from the company Fat Shark that made Vermintide, the Warhammer Fantasy Left 4 Dead-alike. How close are we talking to that? Is this just a sci-fi Vermintide?
I think like you'd maybe expect that it would just be Vermintide with guns, which would therefore make it maybe a bit closer to Left 4 Dead. But I was really pleased to find out that it's much more of a, I guess, a hybrid between those two games. And I guess it actually draws from the Warhammer source material in that basically it almost feels like it's split up into shooting phases and melee phases, and that's based on the way that kind of like you're pushed around by the enemies in the game. Obviously there were ranged enemies in Vermintide, but because they were firing things like, you know, occasionally cannons, but mostly like arrows or throwing knives and stuff like that, that meant you could close that distance very easily. Like, Darktide's just not that because they've got laser guns, they're using las guns to fire at you, so it becomes very, very difficult to kind of move up the field. So that's where your range comes into contact. But then obviously it's a horde game, right? So you've got an awful lot of kind of poxwalker zombies coming at you. And so it's very much about learning to keep those guys at range, because if you get into melee, they'll mob you. But the people that have got guns, you want to find a way to cut through that range and take them down with your chainsword or your big knife, something that they're not very good against.
So is it almost like rock, paper, scissors design in that way?
Yeah, there's definitely a little bit of that, which I also think comes from like the tabletop sort of version of those kind of characters. You are very much looking at, if they've got las guns, it's kind of like they don't really have kind of like the melee power, but it's a lot more difficult to get to them because it's a relatively rapid fire weapon and you have very little health. Much like Vermintide, you are kind of like close to death for a lot of it. There's a lot of that kind of tension, a lot of that near-death experience whilst trying to do fairly complex objectives.
I was going to ask about the objectives. It's not as simple as just walking through a map and taking out enemies, right? Like there are missions to complete on the way.
Yeah, so for example, the one that we were doing required you to effectively kind of hack into I guess for a lack of a better description, like a mainframe. Obviously, you're literally using skulls to do this that have got like weird computer brains in. But that required you to monitor kind of several of those that were going on whilst you were being mobbed by enemies. And if those broke down, it wasn't just a case of going over and tapping kind of X to get them back up. You literally had to get out like a mini Auspex computer and sort of redial in, like recalibrate the computer with a small mini game. That, yes, very, very simple. It was literally just tap when you see the light come on. But when that's been done under pressure, when you've got zombies coming in from all over the place, you've got chaos demons that you can hear like tunneling down the tunnels, that kind of adds the right amount of pressure, I think.
There is plenty more to see from Warhammer 40,000 Darktide. I hope that is a nice taste of what's coming from it. And we've got so much more coming from Gamescom as well. Keep it locked to IGN. We've got stuff for you all week.
I've played Dead Island 2. That's an odd thing to say in 2022. First announced back in 2014 with its now infamous trailer featuring a zombified runner, we've seen next to nothing of the game since. The almost decade-long radio silence likely had most people believing that Dead Island 2 was, well, dead. Until now. I've played Dead Island 2, a whole 20 minutes of it. It's real, it's genuinely planned to be released in 2023, and despite a long absence, it's still what it originally set out to be, a co-op, open-world, California-set sequel to Techland's well-received, but a bit shonky, original. This new version of Dead Island 2 is being built by Dambuster Studios, the folks behind Homefront: The Revolution. It's the third developer to work on the game, and while it started again completely from scratch, what I've played looks reasonably similar to the gameplay we saw of the original 2014 version, but with a few modern upgrades. Set in a bright and bizarre Los Angeles that Dambuster has nicknamed Hell A, Dead Island 2 begins in the wake of a zombie outbreak. The city is now a slaughter playground, and brutally gory melee combat is once again the big focus. Flesh slices open, guts spill out, and limbs fly off bodies. Flames char skin and melt muscle, leaving just blackened skeletons behind. You can even tear the undead apart with your bare hands, courtesy of Fury Mode, an ultimate-like ability powered by the zombie infection that slowly floods your veins over the course of the story. That gore is all well and good, but the combat that leads to that bloodshed needs to be just as accomplished. During my hands-on demo, I found that, while it does still have a bit of that waving a stick around feel that a lot of first-person melee falls foul of, Dead Island 2 has got a few good ideas powering its battles. The combat system promotes constant movement. Dodges, kicks and jumps are all integral parts. Throwable weapons known as curveballs, things like grenades, shurikens and bait bombs, can also be weaved into the usual whirlwind of hacks and slashes. Being able to strike, dodge out of the way of a grab, and then immediately hurl a Molotov in quick succession is a pretty fun rhythm. And it's the fact that Dead Island 2 seems to keep up that rhythm that has me impressed. While there is a stamina system, it's incredibly generous and doesn't have you running out of breath every 10 seconds. On top of those basics is a dynamic elemental system that feels like an advancement of the 2014 version's propagating fire. Oil can be set ablaze with flames, and water can douse those flames, but water also conducts electricity, turning harmless puddles into death traps when combined with a battery. An impressive variety of zombie types helps tie this together. Among the colourful hordes are corpses with gas canisters and water bottles, and you need only target them to add some elemental fun to a fight. Those elemental properties can be found in the weapons too, which, as series DNA dictates, can be upgraded at workbenches with a variety of bonkers add-ons. A fire axe, for instance, can be fitted with blowtorches that scorch away at flesh with each strike. A pair of Wolverine-like claws can be supercharged with electricity that stuns enemies. Nothing I saw in my sample inventory would have felt out of place in the original Dead Island, which rejected gritty realism in favour of over-the-top mayhem. Dambuster certainly seems determined to stick to that MO. Thanks to this short hands-on, it's obvious that Dead Island 2 isn't just alive, but kicking too. While it may have risen from the grave though, it still has a lot to prove. Dambuster has made a solid first impression, but it comes coupled with a distinct sense of familiarity. Dead Island 2 appears to share a huge amount of common ground with not just the original Dead Island, but also its step-sibling, Dying Light. Even at this early stage, I'm already struck with the sense of having played all this before. The gory combat, the weird weapons, the crafting, the oddball humour. After one Dead Island game, an expansion, and 2 Dying Lights, it's all feeling a bit parts of the same corpse. So is Dead Island 2 just The Walking Dead, or will it be something genuinely surprising? The streets of LA will hold the answer. There's so much I've not seen. What is the open world like? What twist will the story take? How varied is the mission design? How good are the jokes? It's all this that will determine if Dambuster's efforts are a gory good time, or just a sequel that's arrived a decade too late.
We are at the Xbox booth at Gamescom 2022, where they are showing off the likes of Pentiment, Grounded, Lies of P, Age of Empires 4. There's a lot to see. We're going to take a look around, and apparently there's a massive spider that I'm really unhappy about meeting. This, I'm sorry to say, is the Broodmother from Grounded, who is a 17-foot wide / 5 meters wide giant spider that for some reason you're allowed to take a picture with. And now I have to do that. So, what's it like having way too many legs? Very rude. Starfield sadly isn't playable at the show, but they have brought Vasco, who was the first confirmed companion from the game. You can get a selfie with him as well. Sea of Thieves, pirate game. You know what's big with pirates? Tattoos. Turns out you can get a temporary one here. I'm not sure why. There's a range of options from anchors to keys, and of course, a rat. I guess I'm getting a rat tattoo now. I look like I have an infection, and I think that's what we were going for with the rat. So, mission accomplished as far as I'm concerned. Well, from rat tattoos to robots, that is the Xbox booth at Gamescom 2022. And that's really only the start of it. There is a lot more here, and there is a lot more at Gamescom as well. So make sure you keep it locked to IGN.
Gamescom 2022 is presented by Saints Row. Be your own boss and take control of Santo Alesso.
The only thing better than listening to IGN podcasts is watching them. Luckily, all your favorite weekly shows are here on IGN 1. Whether you're chasing the latest Xbox releases with Unlocked, looking for your PlayStation fix with Beyond, tracking everything coming to Switch with Nintendo Voice Chat, or catching up on this week's gaming news with GameScoop, we've got you covered. Check it out. Tune in every weekday at 5 p.m. for the best gaming coverage right here on IGN 1.
If you're not following IGN on social media, what are you waiting for? We're constantly updating our feeds to bring you the latest news, gameplay, custom original content, memes, the best user-generated videos and art, and a whole lot more. Be part of the conversation throughout the year. Follow IGN on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, TikTok, and Snapchat.
Everybody loves watching a speedrun of their favorite game, but what if you got a chance to peek into the mind of the developers behind those games as they watch their hard work get completely destroyed right in front of them?
What is happening right now?
That's exactly what happens on every episode of Devs React to Speedruns. We invite you to ride along with the developers as they watch, react, and enjoy some of the craziest gameplay by the most skilled speedrunners on the planet. Tune in every Saturday for a brand new episode.
Shop platform is the preferred online destination to find and purchase digital experiences and for users to engage with each other. Millions of gamers count on Coda Shop every month for a seamless purchase experience when buying game credits or vouchers. No registration or login is required, and purchases are added to the user's game account instantly. Let's take a look.
Welcome back to IGN Live at Gamescom. Coming up next, a look at the Soulsborne-inspired brutal action game, Lies of P. Let's take a look.
Please feel free to let me know.
Hello everyone, I'm Ryo Matsuno, creative producer at Luminous Productions. For everyone who's been wondering what the gameplay is like in Forspoken, we're so excited to give you a new, extended look at the game, which stars Ella Balinska as Frey Holland and depicts her unexpected journey into Athia, a beautiful, alternate world at the mercy of supernatural forces. Her adventure is set in this expansive world, and you really have to experience for yourself just how satisfying it is to traverse the sprawling landscapes of Athia using magic parkour. In Forspoken, we put a lot of emphasis on the journey over the destination. While you can certainly collect various items throughout the world to enhance Frey's magical abilities, the core of Forspoken's gameplay is built around exhilarating action. By mastering over 100 of Frey's different spells and abilities, you'll be able to enjoy robust combat, exciting and intuitive magic parkour, and various missions. In this 10-minute video, you'll get a glimpse of how Frey must use her powerful new abilities to traverse different terrains and strategically defeat creatures and deranged beasts native to each region. We hope that this trailer gives you an idea of what to expect when Forspoken drops on January 24th.
Frey Holland, daydreamer, cat lover, New Yorker. On a fateful evening, her life changed drastically when she was mysteriously transported to the beautiful, treacherous land of Athia.
Whoa.
Frey arrives with a magical, sentient bracelet inexplicably wrapped around her arm.
Oh, hello, yes!
Then discovers she can cast powerful spells and use magic to swiftly traverse the sprawling landscapes. The last remnants of Athia's populace soon look to Frey as their only hope for confronting the Tantas, once benevolent matriarchs who now rule as maddened and evil sorceresses. Reluctant to help, but desperate to find a way back home, Frey sets off on a journey through this strange and dangerous land. The only safe haven in Athia is Cipal, where refugees have gathered to escape the mysterious, corrupting force of the Break. Some of Athia's inhabitants will have quests to give or information to share. Others are willing to trade for valuable goods. And Frey may even find a small friend to act as a guide. At this point in Frey's journey, she has returned to Cipal from the wilds after finding a rare piece of Advaha ore. In the right hands, this ore may prove to be most useful.
Advaha ore, right?
You've seen this stuff before?
I've made armor out of it. For Tanta Sila, no less.
Whoa, you made that armor? Does that mean you can do something cool with this stuff?
I could, but I'd need the right tools.
And where can I find those?
In Prenost.
Huh? What, aren't there any in town?
I'll draw you a map and give you the key. You'll have to do the rest yourself. If you can bring them back, and that's a big if, I'll make you something with that ore of yours.
Outside the safety of Cipal, the only life Frey will encounter are corrupted enemies looking to rip her limb from limb. Frey's combat spells make quick work of low-level enemies. And her magic-enhanced parkour abilities turn this inhospitable land into her personal playground. Treasure chests dot the landscapes and contain items used for crafting or trading with vendors back in Cipal. Mana is earned by leveling up, but it can also be found in glowing pools around Athia. Collecting enough mana allows Frey to unlock new spells. With the help of her golden companion Cuff, Frey can scan belfries to reveal nearby points of interest before continuing her journey.
This is the place on Johidi's map, isn't it? Are you planning on retrieving her smithing gear?
Might as well while we're here. Besides, I want to know more about Sila and Johidi Nur.
Well, as ever, it seems we have a few things to attend to first.
Yeah, it looks that way. Let's break some heads. Looks like this is the place.
Well, in we go.
Damn, this stuff is heavy.
The reassuring heft of Odvaha.
There is much to find in Athia, so exploring new locations before completing a quest is always worthwhile. A variety of rewards are waiting to be discovered or unlocked, including experience points, stat increases, bits of Athian lore, and new gear.
This thing just screams prop.
Why not try it on?
While Frey is mysteriously immune to the corrupting influence of the break, nothing else in Athia can escape its grasp. Humans are turned into savage zombies, and worse, while animals are mutated into dangerous beasts. Pilgrims' refuges are hideaways located in every part of Athia, and it's always a good idea to seek them out. Here, Frey can craft healing drafts, upgrade gear, and get some much-needed rest. Fully recharged and ready for the next step of her journey, Frey travels onward into the depths of corruption in Avoilette. The effects of the break are even more unmistakable here. And while Frey may be resistant to those effects, she will undoubtedly be pushed to her limits.
This place is insane.
Frey will encounter numerous points of interest in her travels. Many of these landmarks and locations have been corrupted or overrun with corrupted enemies, but they're always worth seeking out.
Well, this doesn't look good.
Yes, something seems to have drawn the break here, but I expect you can clear it away with your powers. Give it a try.
That's enough exploring for now. It's about time for Frey to head back to Sepal and deliver the smithing tools to Johidi.
All done?
What the hell is this?
What did you expect? A full suit of armor? You'd have needed a damn sight more ore for that.
No, it's cool, I just...
Like you to lump it. That's the last bit of smithing I'll be doing for a while.
Frey's journey will take her to the ends of this beautiful, cruel land. And in her search for a way home, she discovers something worth fighting for.
Is that a cat?
Gamescom 2022 is presented by NHTSA. Drive sober or get pulled over.
I'm Akeem Lawanson, and this is What to Watch on IGN1. It's a weekly show where we check out the latest and greatest in trailers, reviews, and everything else in the world of entertainment. Tune in to new episodes every Friday at 9 p.m. on IGN1.
IGN is your go-to for the latest and best in games, movies, and television. And with over 50 million IGN subscribers on IGN's message boards, the chat must flow. Catch our unending stream of up-to-date news and so much more over at IGN.com or subscribe to IGN on YouTube. And check out IGN Games and IGN Movies and TV for deep dives into your preferred pop culture. Plus, IGN guides to get help on veritably any game from our team of experts. No matter where you are, IGN.com, YouTube, Twitter, Facebook, or Instagram, IGN has you covered.
Hey you! Yes, you! Do you have fun? Fear of missing Gamescom? Relax. Gamescom is everywhere you want. Gamescom now. Register now.
What's up, everybody? I'm Stella Chung, and you're about to get your weekly fix. This is the show where we round up all the biggest gaming and entertainment headlines you won't want to miss. Tune into new episodes every Saturday at 12:30 p.m. Eastern and Pacific on IGN1.
PCs and PlayStation 5s are hurting for space. And with all the games shown off during Gamescom 2022, that hurt is getting a lot deeper. So make room for more games. Upgrade the PlayStation 5 and PC gaming rig of choice with the Samsung 990 Pro and 990 Pro with heatsink. Optimize the gaming experience with the Samsung 990 Pro, which offers read and write speeds of up to 7450 and 6900 megabytes a second respectively, making the 990 Pro perform up to 55% faster than the 980 Pro when gaming. Make overheating a thing of the past thanks to Samsung's newly designed controller, which improves the SSD's power efficiency by up to 50% compared to the 980 Pro. Additionally, the 990 Pro's controller and heat spreader label are coated in nickel, allowing for reliable thermal management. The SSD's thermal guard technology ensures the drive's temperature stays in the optimal range. For the extra cautious players still worried about overheating, fear not. The Samsung 990 Pro with heatsink offers an additional layer of thermal control to prevent performance drops that arise from overheating. Plus, the Magician software program allows players to fully customize the RGB light according to whatever strikes their fancy. Me? I like the red lighting. The Samsung 990 Pro and 990 Pro with heatsink are a perfect fit for PC and PlayStation 5, and thankfully, it's easy to install. Install the 990 Pro into the appropriate M.2 slot on the PC motherboard, and voila! High-speed gaming awaits. And don't forget the heatsink. And on PlayStation 5, users should slot the 990 Pro with heatsink in the appropriate console slot. The 990 Pro offers up to a 55% improvement in random performance, allowing for faster loads on PC and PlayStation 5. Samsung and next-generation gaming, complementing each other like peanut butter and jelly. IGN is proud to be sponsored with Samsung SSD for Gamescom studio coverage.
Welcome back to IGN Live at Gamescom 2022. It's the biggest gaming event in the world, and we're going to be here all week, so if you couldn't make it, we've got you covered. If you're just joining us, I'm Damon Hatfield, joined by Brian Altano.
Hi. Whether you're here at Gamescom or watching at home, two things you don't want to miss this weekend are the Gamescom Award Show, which is happening right here on Saturday, and the very next day, it's the Gamescom Cosplay Contest, powered by McDelivery.
Now, obviously, Gamescom is about, first and foremost, having fun, but Gamescom also works to bring the gaming community together to make a difference through Gamescom Cares. The global games community is a force of good, and together we can move mountains. Most recently, this means Gamescom is doing its part to support developers from Ukraine. Ukrainian game devs are offered free exhibition space and free tickets to the Gamescom developer conference, DevCom. There are many ways to help those in need. Find your way.
Now, we know you want to see more games, and there's lots more to check out. Today, coming up next, we're getting up close with Moonbreaker, the new game from some of the people behind Subnautica. And then we're setting sail with Skull and Bones, the long-awaited pirate game from Ubisoft.
And right now, it's time to strap on some Proton Packs and gas up the Ecto-1 for some brand new gameplay from Ghostbusters Spirits Unleashed.
Unleash the spirits!
It's here! Truck's going out!
Judging by the numbers, that place is at least 50% haunted.
Lost it! Clear the area, folks!
I have to work together, otherwise I'll be cooked. About your right!
Away!
Don't worry about me.
What a tormented and otherworldly effect you've had on the place.
Welcome back to IGN Live at Gamescom. Now, during Opening Night Live, we got to look at a game that everybody was expecting, based on a very old movie that you probably have very fond memories of if you're also very old, like me. Here to talk about Killer Clowns from Outer Space, the game, are my co-hosts, Brian Altano, Denny Lee, and Max Scoville. Hello, everybody.
What a
Killer
surprise.
Clowns
Yeah, let's talk about
from
it.
Outer Space.
Yes,
Yeah.
I don't think anybody could have possibly predicted that we would get a reveal of this game. It's a brand new multiplayer game, asymmetric, 3v7, based on the 1988 cult classic Killer Clowns from Outer Space.
Yep.
Amazing. So this is one of the directors who worked on Friday the 13th. So obviously experience with this genre before. This one I feel is going to be somehow more over the top, more violent.
I mean, the trailer already cost. The trailer obviously cost more than the original movie. Like that, I think the production values are up there.
Yeah, so they pull no punches here. This is, you'll get to play as three different types of clowns that were in the film. The film actually had a lot more than three, but we're going to start with three for now. And then there's a bunch of different humans. And so the humans are, outnumbering the clowns, but that probably doesn't mean much because their weapons are worse. But you can craft weapons, you can run around, use the environment to help you out and stuff like that. The movie itself is like crazy violent, which I really love about it.
But
Crazy
it like
violent.
the movie was in on the joke.
Yeah.
It wasn't taking itself seriously. That's why people liked it. I think.
Yeah, this was the best. It was a very cult movie in the 80s, very fun. You know, it doesn't look that good. Look, it's I told you guys before, it's such a cringe, but I love to watch it, and it's so violent, but it's funny at the same time. So it's very likely, but in this game, you're going to see it as well, and I believe we're going to play this game and have tons of fun, and the most fun part is that you have every clown have his own ability.
Yes.
So you can find yourself in any clown anyway, so...
I think this could be like a really big hit. I feel like in addition, like that kind of asymmetrical, like, you know, Dead by Daylight, Friday the 13th gameplay is that, you know, does pretty well. We just had the Evil Dead game, but in addition to being based on this, you know, this old IP that old people get excited about because they have fond memories of a VHS tape, this also has like a lot of kind of Five Nights at Freddy's energy. You know, like it kind of reminds me of like it's a little bit of horror, but it's also goofy. Like, it's kind of like Hello Neighbor, where I could see this just doing really well.
I can see streamers playing it like all day. Like,
They're working with the original directors and the original composer from the film on new stuff. And the directors, Damien and I were reading up on this, like, they're brothers, right? And
and so this is the only movie that they ever made. Yeah. But they did effects work on Critters.
Yep.
And then, Max, they did the Large Marge sequence in
right?
Big Adventure.
They should be in jail. That's terrifying.
So what's really funny about this is, like, the humans are fighting the clowns, but they're also, because it's kind of the end of the world scenario, they're looting stores. So they're running around and they're grabbing parts, they're crafting weapons. So it's going to have that kind of feeling to it of just like scrappiness, which I really dig.
That feels so like on brand. That actually kind of reminds me of Night of the Comet, which is kind of a Killer Clowns adjacent movie.
Yeah.
Which I'm sure the Night of the Comet game was going to be announced at the Game Awards later this year.
All bets are off at this point. Like,
that's going to be a battle royale. It's going to be wild.
Oh my God.
So what have we got in terms of like 80s movies revived as asymmetrical multiplayer games? There's been Friday the 13th, Predator, Evil Dead, Ghostbusters is coming, and now Killer Clowns.
From outer space.
And Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
Oh, they did check.
We're still getting that in the way. Yeah, that's coming out soon too.
I want the Thing. Give me the Thing.
I mean, that would work too.
Yeah, totally. You get. I'll be the weird dog.
Just AAA Among Us. I love it.
Yeah.
And if you haven't seen the movie Killer Clowns from Outer Space, it's the kind of thing where it's all there in the title.
Yep.
That's the movie.
Exactly. Everything you need to know is in the title. I can't believe you're actually going to get a game.
And this explains it even better because it's Killer Clowns from Outer Space, the game. So now you know that you won't accidentally be buying the movie. This launches on PC and consoles in early 2023, but like their whole plan is multiple updates, roadmap, like basically keep building on this thing. They're going to add more clowns, basically, is what I'm saying. They're going to keep adding more clowns. They're all going to be killing, and guess where they're from? It's outer space.
Yeah, we can try to guess which planet, but it's going to.
Yeah, we don't know. We don't have that information currently, which is unfortunate, but we will get there.
All right, well, we will be able to play Killer Clowns the game in early 2023. That seems like a long time. Good news. Time flies when you're having fun. And luckily, there's more fun to be had right here at Gamescom 2022. So keep watching IGN Live at Gamescom for more.
Killer Clowns.
From outer space.
Space.
The game.
Hello, I'm Joe Screbbles, Executive Editor of News for IGN, and I have just played half an hour of Justin Roiland's and Squanch Games' High on Life, which is strange. Here are 5 things I learned. So number 1, this is an unusual kind of a shooter. It is a first-person shooter, and it's not just unusual because your guns and your knife talk to you as you play. What's unusual about it is the gunplay itself isn't your sort of Twitch shooter, Call of Duty style hit scan type weaponry. You are seeing slow-moving bolts flying towards you, and the really interesting thing there is that you are getting into situations with lots of enemies at once where it's becoming almost more of a bullet hell game. You're really avoiding projectiles as much as you're taking cover or looking to take people out from interesting positions. So it lends it this quite almost strategic air in places, which sounds weird for a game where giant ants are screaming swear words at you, but genuinely, it just feels different. And speaking of giant ants swearing at you, this game is genuinely gross. And I know people expect that. This is made by Justin Roiland. He helped create Rick and Morty. People know the kind of content this guy likes. But there are some lines in this that genuinely took me aback. There are some choices you can make in this demo. For instance, I was told repeatedly not to shoot a little guy who was calling me fresh meat because I just entered a slum. Until it did let me shoot him, and then I had to meet his mother. So it's you know, it's out there. There's genuinely a real sort of grim and grotty sense to the humor, and it works. It really works. And speaking of making those gameplay choices, this game will occasionally give you dialogue trees, but the point of these dialogue trees is not to help you make big changes to the world or do Obsidian or Bethesda-style stuff. It's really about doing the right punchlines, and I encourage you to say the wrong thing whenever you can. The game gives you some options where one of the answers is definitely the right thing to say. Don't do it. You're always going to get to do those things down the line. Play with the jokes, let the jokes build. You get to make the punchlines. It's genuinely part of the fun to just mess with the parameters and have the game react to you because of it. So we already knew High on Life wasn't an open world game, but it does have open elements. It has a bit of exploration. And as you'd hope for from this crew, these people making this game, it's worth exploring. You can go out into the city, you can have a look around, you can see what's going on, and I just genuinely think it's worthwhile stopping, looking at every little detail. This is a truly bizarre alien landscape you're put in, and you should make the most of it. It is worth going out there and seeing all the little details, and some of the art on the walls is as beautiful as it is strange, and it seems like so much love has gone into building the fabric of this place as well as the extremely strange story that you're telling within it. It's really good to just go out and have a look. And finally, just a little detail, but when you're in your house location at the very start of this demo, which I assume will be a kind of home base, quite literally, for when you're playing the game, the characters will watch a TV. And it is essentially interdimensional cable from Rick and Morty. There are TV episodes going on, extremely strange things. I saw a couple get a divorce because the lady was out for too long and her meal of 2 cigarettes got cold. It's that kind of level of thing. But I was talking to one of the developers afterwards, and it turns out there are 4 full-length movies in this game that you can watch as well. I didn't get to see what those were. I think we can assume they're going to be pretty strange. But we are essentially, apparently, getting 4 full-length Justin Roiland movies as part of High on Life, which seems worthwhile to me. I like it. So that's what I learned from High on Life. You can go to IGN.com right now and watch all 25 minutes of what I played earlier. It is worth having a look at. And yeah, it's a really bizarre game. It's one of my highlights of Gamescom so far. I like it a lot.
Gamescom 2022 is presented by Saints Row. Be your own boss and take control of Santo Alesso.
Tune into IGN1 for the latest news on your favorite releases, gameplay exclusives, and all the entertainment you can handle. And maybe even some you can't.
Cinefix on IGN1, your friendly Friday night home for film fanaticism.
You're watching The Weekly Fix, ready to fill you in on anything you may have missed in the world of gaming and entertainment.
Find it all in one place on IGN1.
They turned into a network. Who knew?
IGN Playlist is all of your games in one place. You can build your library and discover new games. Create and follow playlists from friends. Access guides for what you're playing. And rate and rank the games you love to share with the world. Available free with your IGN account. It's for players, no matter where you play.
You're a busy gamer with plenty to play. Not a lot of downtime, but you still want to keep up with the latest gaming news? Fret not. No matter where you like to play, PC, PlayStation, Nintendo, Xbox, I've got the headlines you need to know about. When Half-Life 3 is announced, it'll be on the Daily Fix. When the Switch Pro is announced, you'll be the first to know. And when that big game you just can't wait for is delayed, yeah, I'll have that news too. The Daily Fix, with me, Nars, weekdays only on IGN.
If you're not following IGN on social media, what are you waiting for? We're constantly updating our feeds to bring you the latest news, gameplay, custom original content, memes, the best user-generated videos and art, and a whole lot more. Be part of the conversation throughout the year. Follow IGN on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, TikTok, and Snapchat.
The developers behind the hit Subnautica series have teamed up with best-selling fantasy author Brandon Sanderson to make a brand new tactical strategy game called Moonbreaker. Here to tell us about it is Charlie Cleveland, game director and co-founder of Unknown Worlds Entertainment. Welcome to the IGN Gamescom stage.
Thank you.
This game revealed at opening night live last night. One of the more interesting games, I think, at the show this year.
Thank you.
Very, very cool premise.
Weird? Were you going to say weird?
I mean, but weird in a good way.
Okay, good.
Weird in a good way. You know, it's like it's not a third-person, open world RPG game.
That's true. Yeah.
It's a tabletop miniatures tactics game.
Yeah.
Tell us about it. It's Moonbreaker.
Yeah, if you come up with it's hard to pick the genre. It's basically a turn-based strategy game.
Okay.
But the high-level concept is we just wanted to bring tabletop miniatures to digital. Mm-hmm. That's kind of the magic of it. That includes painting, that includes the lore, that includes, of course, just the moment-to-moment gameplay. But we're actually, I think, basically the first of its kind. I mean, I've seen a lot of people.
Sure.
Yeah, they're trying to they make a little move into miniatures, they have a miniatures look with Hitman Go. There's a couple games here and there, but no one has actually taken tabletop miniatures, brought them to the modern age.
And you're leaning into it. These are miniatures. They're not like animated characters.
That's right.
They move around the board as the player would do that.
Yeah.
And they're
although we don't have the hand.
Right, no hand.
We talked about it, but we never did.
Thought about that.
Yeah,
That look kind of weird. But they're not animated. They are voiced though. Is that right?
They are voiced.
So there's full voice acting in the game.
And that's kind of that was a line that we had to figure out where we lived on. We obviously didn't want articulated animation, but we do want voices. We do want basically video game sound effects where you can see the VFX. We tried the paused, completely still versions of that stuff, and it just never quite worked. So we're kind of walking the line carefully between video game and tabletop. Hopefully pretty successfully.
What's the basic rules of the game? How does the game play?
Okay. So imagine basically you have Cinder, which is your magical resource, semi-magical resource, and you just gain Cinder every turn. Start with 1, then go to 2, 3, 4. It's kind of like Hearthstone. Basically, it sounds like maybe some game has done that.
Yeah.
We actually tried so many different versions, and that was just the best. So you use that Cinder to basically summon in your own units. You also use the Cinder to power various abilities on your units. So at any given time, you're basically trying to decide, do I use my current units at their full potential, or do I bring in new stuff for later? The units that you get to use in the match are randomly selected from a roster, which you build. So it's not really like building a deck. You are building, it's like a lineup, or it's a captain and 10 crew. But you really can't control what you start with. So a lot of tabletop miniatures games, you start with everything on the table. It's kind of like this giant war of attrition. You just have it's like you go, Braveheart style or whatever. They just crash into each other. That is not the right pacing for us. We wanted more of a build-up pacing, more like StarCraft or an RTS. So it gets dramatic. You're always responding to various dynamic elements that are happening in the game. Not only the random units that you have, but there's so much to talk about. The ship assists, these are these ship powers that you don't add them to your roster. These are powers that come from your orbiting ship that you rode in on. Those you choose from your sets of random buckets when you start the game. You're not always going to have the option of what you want to play with. Sometimes you're going to get some surprises. Sometimes you're going to get 2 really crazy ones. You have to figure out a way to use them together. This game is all about responding to basically infinite options. You're never going to know exactly what's in store, but I could just keep talking about that, but I feel like I should let you ask a question now.
It's good. There's a lot to delve into. How many units do you have on the field in a game?
So maximum at a time is your captain and up to 6 crew.
Okay.
Some of your crew can actually build small constructs like bombs and things like that, but basically it's 7 total. We found that beyond that, and it's way too many to control. And this game, even though it's turn-based, even though it's miniatures, it's actually very intense.
Sure.
You'll probably spend the first 30 seconds, 40 seconds of your turn staring intently at the table, trying to figure out what to do, and then you quickly make all the moves before the timer runs out. Because you have to position your units. Each unit blocks other units. So they block the movement. They lower accuracy if you fire through them. So if you want to protect your captain, which is the goal of the game is to kill the enemy captain, if you want to protect them, you might move another unit in front. But you want to make sure that you do the order right to make sure it's got this chess-like order thing. You got to do it just right, because if you block another unit who's going to take a shot first, you lower their accuracy. So you kind of have to plan every single detail. which is it's a real brain burner, actually, in the best way, I think.
Sure. About how long are you finding games last?
12 minutes
12
is
minutes.
our
Oh, that's
recorded
good.
average.
So it's pretty.
Thank you. I've worked extremely hard to get that time down. Like we've all suffered through our on the dev team, like hour-long games, 2-hour-long games. So like I think we're pretty good on that. But we want to keep it accessible.
Sure,
It's
sure.
gonna be fast.
We should talk about the painting aspect of it.
Okay, like everyone seems to love the painting.
I mean, yeah, that's something that's really unique. Don't do a lot of painting of my characters or units in video games. So.
Yet.
Yeah. Maybe this is going to be the.
This might be. Yeah, it's funny. Like we always knew that painting was like kind of the special, one of the special sauces here. But I have a feeling like, well, on the dev team, we've seen some people paint more than play, and I thought that was like a fluke because maybe maybe the game's not good enough yet. The response we've seen at Gamescom is basically everyone is freaking out about the painting. I really hope they freak out about the game too eventually once they get their hands on it. But the painting is, I mean, it's really special because during lockdown, I basically got just like, I was stressed like the rest of us, and I started to learn to draw. So I'm like, through my lockdown, I'm going to learn how to draw and paint. I'm going to do it every day. And I was using Procreate on the iPad, and I'm like doing it. And I found myself getting really relaxed. Like it was just such a blissful, beautiful place to be, just to zone out on visuals and not think about anything else. So we actually tried to incorporate that in our painting. The goal of our painting is not. It's not simply just to customize your units. If we wanted that, we could add little paint buckets and selection layers, and I don't know, like we could like pre-paint everything, and you just choose the colors, and that's it. We're not doing that. Painting is the goal. Like painting, it's like an activity that you enjoy doing. We tried to make this as relaxing and peaceful as possible. We have emulated all proper, not all, but we've gotten inspiration from miniatures painting styles. You can paint a base coat. You can do a wash. You can do dry brushing. You can use decals. So these are methods that miniatures painters use, and we always want to make sure that it always feels analog. This is not meant to feel like a digital tool. And again, how we walked the line between video game and analog before for the gameplay, we did the same thing here. We do have an undo. That's about you have to have an undo.
Sure.
We actually tried making this without undo, and it just was like, it was too much of a loss. But almost everything else, we're really trying to lean into the physical side, making it feel as much like a physical experience as possible.
I think people find a lot with, when you're converting even physical board games into digital formats, there are pros and cons to each, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Neither is officially the best way to play that. And, being able to paint, being able to experiment with different paint styles, and then undo is also pretty nice too.
We would get lynched if they didn't have that in there.
So you've created a whole new universe. What do we need to know about this world and its lore and these characters?
So that's another big part of this game and why we haven't really spoken about it for a long time. Years ago, we approached Brandon Sanderson. Somehow he said, hey, I'm interested. Yeah. We basically wanted to build a world that was, I shouldn't say better, because it's just more modern, and, for a miniatures game like something like Warhammer has this incredible lore, we wanted to come to the table with something as good, but actually something more modern. So we wanted to make our own world that was diverse, inclusive, optimistic. This is not grimdark. This is not, it's not a race war between the Eldar and, whoever else. This is like, it's very like Guardians of the Galaxy kind of inspired. And they're basically captains with their crew, usually a motley crew with like aliens, some guy locked up in the corner, no one knows where they found him. He's just hitching a ride. Over here, someone else is like running a mission for someone else secretly at the same time. It's like it's kind of humorous. And anyway, so we needed Brandon to basically help us craft that world. And Brandon that guy's a machine. I don't even know. He just surprise launched all his special books on Kickstarter. I didn't even know he was working on them, even though we were talking a lot during the pandemic and during all this. So he's created this fantastic world. We've built basically years of stories and years of characters, of which you're only seeing a tiny piece at launch. So we're releasing the first 3 captains. The first 3 chapters of the story will be unveiled in the first couple months, which I'll talk about in a moment. And we've basically planned this almost like Canterbury Tales in space. That's kind of, I don't know if does anyone even know that reference?
I'm old enough. I'm
okay, I'm old enough, so I know it. I read that in high school, not going to lie. Canterbury Tales in Space, where each captain, you're reading and hearing their story, and then you realize over time how interlinked they all are and how they're all building towards various future moments. So the way we're doing that is also pretty unique. We're actually telling all the stories through audio podcast.
Oh, wow.
Which is really crazy, right?
Yeah.
We're just making a fully acted audio podcast along with a game. And we're actually going to be releasing that on Apple Podcasts and like any place you would normally hear a podcast for free. It's also part of the game. And so what's really cool about that is you can listen to a podcast while you're painting.
That's
long
actually
form,
perfect.
30 minutes.
It's like you thought of everything.
It's almost like we thought.
Yeah.
It makes it. I'm making it sound easy, but this was like we decided this like years ago, and it just took this whole time to actually make it work.
Well, now it's it's finally going to be out there in early access form.
Yes.
Next month. It's in September.
September 29th.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
And when it launches for PC, it's going to you have PvP, PvE, and then a single player roguelike mode.
We do.
Yeah. Talk about that.
Yeah, so it's like a roguelike mode where you fight a series of bosses, which are actually custom for that mode. And everything in this game is about a unique power. Every unit has, the captains have multiple powers, but all the crew just have one. The cargo run, we're calling it cargo run, those bosses have like 2 powers, and they're just like, you look at them and you're like, this is so broken, how do I fight against this? But of course, you learn. Like everything else in the game, everything has a counter, and you just have to figure it out. You play a series of 5 matches. Those are randomly chosen from a big pool of bosses. It will get bigger over time. And during the game, you have some extra goodies that show up. Cargo drops around the map, and the game is all about unit positioning. So you have to like get to the cargo, open it up, and whatever upgrade you find in there goes to the unit that picked it up. Or you can use units to manipulate it, push it towards you, or you can use a grappling hook to pull it towards you. We also have relics. It's very Slay the Spire-esque. So like kind of designed to go off the rails.
Yeah.
Some really crazy stuff happens, but it's okay. It's single player.
Sure.
Like you can that's where you're allowed to go crazy.
Yeah, it's for sure.
Yeah.
So you're launching an early access on PC with the emphasis on painting and everything. I'm sure you've thought about this. Could the game work on console?
Yes.
Sometime in the
I don't
future.
think we've formally decided it. We just want this game to go as wide as possible.
Sure.
We just haven't. We haven't actually decided that. We probably will do it. If the game does well, I'm pretty sure we're going to go crazy.
Okay. Well, I hope you get the chance to go crazy.
I hope so too.
Thank you so much for joining
thanks,
us. We're looking forward to hearing more about Moonbreaker. We've got lots more IGN Live at Gamescom 2022 on the way, so stick around.
With the waves beneath you and the wind in your sails, the Indian Ocean is yours to fully explore in Skull and Bones. But as we recently learned, most of Ubisoft's upcoming pirate simulator takes place at sea. So what is out there to discover aside from water, and well, more water? We spoke to developers at Ubisoft Singapore to find out.
The gameplay on land is about socializing, crafting, building up your fleet, and taking contracts in the game, in either a den or the outposts.
Despite the majority of Skull and Bones map being made up of ocean, you can step off your ship and walk on dry land. Not every island you see is explorable, but you can weigh anchor at dens and outposts, 2 special location types that have everything that a pirate needs to prepare for further adventures.
The particularity of the land also is that it offers you a safe zone where nobody can attack you. The role of the pirate is to do some back and forth between the safe land, where you can build your ship and customize your ship, but also trade some resources before to go on the hostile ocean to steal precious cargo that then you bring back. So from land, aside building and crafting and trading, also you can take some contracts to make some money from some other pirate kingpins. As your infamy begins to spread across the Indian Ocean, you'll gain an access to your own pirate lair, from where you can kickstart your ascent to pirate kingpin by manufacturing and smuggling illegal and high-value goods.
Skull and Bones' world has been designed as a living space that changes as frequently as the tides. Some characters won't stay in one place forever, so you'll need to explore the map to find the right people with the right opportunities.
Spread all over the world, you will find some outposts where you can also meet other smugglers or some local rebels fighting against the mega corporations. We call them ephemeral zones because the NPC you will meet in this outpost won't always be the same because they are also traveling, they are moving from a place to another one. When you connect to Skull and Bones, the first thing to do is look at your map and to see where the trade routes are, where the merchants are, before to select the right ship, provision it and equip it and set sails to the direction that is more interesting for you.
Sailing, trading and smuggling are all important aspects of a buccaneer career. But what about treasure hunting? Perhaps the most famous of all the pirate pastimes.
There are a lot of treasures hidden in all the outposts, so you need to board some ships and to steal pieces of treasure, or you can also scavenge some wrecks to find other pieces of map. According to some drawing and some landmarks, once you find the right island, you can also use a land compass that will help you to find the location of the treasure.
While there are plenty of important things to find and do on land, the core gameplay of Skull and Bones takes place at sea. With that in mind, Ubisoft Singapore has put a huge amount of work into making the ocean an interesting and challenging place to explore.
So our water, it's essentially a deforming mesh, and that deforming mesh informs the physics. So the boat is actually interacting with the waves. It's not just sailing straight and we add some splashes or like an animated texture. We have other physics properties that each ship will read from. So there's buoyancy and there's drag. So this affects how far into the water the boat will go, how slow they will go through it. So each ship should feel different based on the size and how heavy it is.
Since sailing is such a focus, the naval mechanics have had to evolve beyond what we saw in Assassin's Creed. Things like the weight of your items in the hold and the direction of the wind all need to be taken into account.
Of course, wind should be important to sailing and navigation, but the wind direction actually affects the speed of your ship. A good player will navigate better with the wind at their back and tack better and therefore be a better navigator. So it's just another element of the world that the player needs to be aware of.
But while the systems are more detailed now, Skull and Bones is definitely not a hardcore sailing simulator.
You don't need to be a sailor to play Skull and Bones and be able to understand what to do, but as you learn how to use the wind better and what that means and what does your weight mean in your cargo and the type of ship that you have, you'll see that there is advantages to being a better captain and a better navigator.
The waves of the Indian Ocean can frequently be calm and beautiful, but Skull and Bones has a full weather system that could totally transform its waters.
Well, we want to make sure that there is different types of weather. So you can have some light rain, you can have incredibly crazy supercell storm, and they will feel dynamic. We want the player to be surprised by that and feel the threats as you normally would at sailing out in the open sea.
A storm can be as dangerous as a 100-gunner galleon, so one of Skull and Bones' biggest challenges will be learning how to sail when the water is determined to break your hull.
When you enter the storm, obviously the waves get a lot bigger. That means that the certain size of ship you have could affect you. You could flood, you could take damage. Visibility will change, it'll be a lot darker, so maybe you won't be able to see threats. So yeah, it forces the player to make sure he's equipped properly for the journey with the right ship. Maybe they have enough food and weapons in case they engage someone.
Most open worlds create variety through different biomes and environments, but the ocean setting means Skull and Bones can't really do that. Instead, the developers have paid close attention to the different water states and the iconography of the golden age of piracy to ensure that each area of the map feels new and interesting.
Wind affects the water, the terrain affects the water, so if I'm in a coastal sea near the shoreline, the waters will be appropriately different. I can go inland, and then we're using the river technology, which we have two different water technologies. So more than ever, the world needs to feed the water and then feed the player to help him decide how to act. Not only that, we have the biome diversity of the Indian Ocean, so when I go to Africa, the water will look and feel different than when I go to the East Indies. We wanted to really show the diversity and the realism of water.
As you travel through different territory for the factions, you'll see the colors changing, the flags, the iconography change around you, so you'll be aware of, ooh, I'm in Farah territory or I'm in the French territory. The color schemes and all of that will change, breaking that up with dynamic events or things that can kind of go, ooh, what is that? And get the player to investigate are really important because you don't want to just sail, for forever as you're moving because it's a big game. So that's basically what we try to do is break up the passage with different things you can engage with, helping a merchant out, repairing a ship.
You can be distracted by also broken pieces of map you will find in a bottle, and that will lead you towards some treasure hidden on the remote islands. You can find also a ship that is looking for some help. You can decide to escort that ship first before to go back to the prey you had started to shadow. Something we implemented also in the game is that sometimes depending on the value or the properties of the cargo you are transported, you can attract also specific enemies such as pirate rogues. The rivals will try to eat a piece of your pie.
Skull and Bones' massive open world is beautiful, and you'll want to explore just for the sake of seeing its many sights. But exploration is also vital to staying alive, thanks to the survival mechanics that fit into the core gameplay loop. You need to constantly be searching for new resources and gathering raw materials to build better ships, feed your crew, and advance your infamy.
In the world of Skull and Bones, you will evolve from the status of castaway, stranded on a desert island, to the role of middleman, working for other pirates, and then to the status of kingpin. So to rise from the hero to hero, but you will first have to collect the resources that will allow you to build your ship and craft your weapon, and that will allow you also to upkeep the morale of your crew, because we have a system of mutiny. So in the game, but you can use a small ship and a harpoon to fish some sharks and even some crocodiles. But you can use also a large set of tools to chop some trees or to collect some irons. You can also scavenge some wrecks and steal some pieces of ship. And of course, you can plunder the rich merchant company and all their forts to collect big amount of resources. The value of the resources is based on high risk, high reward.
If the term survival mechanics fills you with dread and memories of depleting thirst meters, don't worry, Skull and Bones isn't that kind of survival game.
As a captain, you don't have a status, you don't need to drink or to consume some food yourself. If you don't feed or don't provide your crew with water, after a while they might turn against you, kick you out of your own ship and maroon you on some island. But if you feed them properly and if you cook also some food providing additional temporary buff, you can also increase the speed of your ship and the damages you will deal because they have more energy.
Its massive map may be mostly water, but it looks like there's still plenty to explore in the world of Skull and Bones.
I must not fear. Fear is the mind killer. Fear is the little death that brings total obliteration. I will face my fear. I will permit it to pass over and through me. And when it has gone past, I will turn the inner eye to see its path. For the fear is gone, there will be nothing. Only I will remain.
Welcome back to IGN Live at Gamescom. Dune Awakening is an open-world survival MMO from Funcom, the team behind Conan Exiles. Now, we've known about this game for a bit, but it was cool to finally see something from it last night during opening night live. So it's time to break it down with my co-hosts. This is it's set on, what is it, Arrakis?
Yes.
And this is an open-world MMO survival game. What does that mean to us?
Well, apparently there's up to like 1,000 players can interact in this world. So you can join factions, you can find players in the wild, you can survive. It's got a little bit of the DNA from Conan from what we know so far. But digging into this one, it seems like it's going to have a lot more interesting world building in terms of sandstorms. Now, like the sandstorms are like obviously a thing in Dune and on Arrakis, but in this game specifically, they are going to help shape the world and then reshape the world. So you'll be doing like a lot of like building and crafting and stuff like that, looting, exploring environments, and all of a sudden a sandstorm comes around, knocks out everything maybe you've been working on, maybe a giant sandworm eats it, and then, yeah, you might have to start
That's
fresh.
awful. It breaks my heart just to think about it.
I know, right? So it definitely has that, not necessarily like permadeath mode, but like, hey, nothing lasts forever type of feeling, right?
Oh.
I know. But what's cool about that is that like it's going to refresh the environment and then drop new things in front of you that you could be the first person in the world to find.
Yeah.
So like there will be like some derelict spaceship that's been crashed out, and it'll appear there, and you'll be like, am I the first person to find this? And you'll go in there, loot it, and find some cool stuff that you've never seen before. So I'm into that.
Yeah.
Max, how about you? Are you a Dune man?
I like Dune.
How you Dune?
I Dune now and then. No, this is interesting. I'm skeptical. You know, I think a lot of people are skeptical too. Conan Exiles had its charms, but I think a lot of people were sort of burned by it. MMOs and survival games like aren't necessarily for everybody, and I'm seeing a lot of people who really just want like a single player RPG. They want a story, and I mean the survival thing definitely makes sense because Dune is an unforgiving planet. You're probably going to have like a thirst meter. You're probably going to have a still suit where you use your bodily fluids to make more water to keep yourself hydrated. But I don't know. It's such a also big epic sprawling universe that's very much about like politics and intrigue and like. You know, yeah, you can sort of scale it down and just be like, okay, it's Freeman and Sardaukar and, you know, House Atreides on one planet, but it's kind of makes me think of Shadow of Mordor, where it's like, here's one corner of this massive universe, and it's kind of focusing just on that. But again, different kind of game. You know, I'll give it the benefit of the doubt, but yeah, it's interesting also because of like Dune's whole sort of reputation with games of being mostly strategy, mostly like a very different scale.
That's true. Yeah, I can definitely relate to that. I'm less of an MMO fan. I'd rather to have like more story-driven games. So for me, it's like I don't know. Maybe I'll try it because it looks incredible, and I really want to try in this game. But hopefully, maybe we'll find a way. Maybe they'll find a way to put some story inside of it. Maybe later on to have some single experience because this world looks amazing. The game looks amazing. But for me, it will be. I'm not sure if I'm going to play it or keep continuing playing it on MMO style.
So I can't speak on the plot, but I have a feeling that like, and I hate to, you know, the storytelling that comes from the environment or whatever, all that crap, like that PR buzzword stuff. But one of the things I was reading up on that sounds pretty cool is like there's spice mining, right? And the spice can be used to change the attributes of your character, inherit powers and stuff like that. But to do that, you basically have to set up like spice mining factories, and random people in the world can raid those and try to take them over. So you could be like, I'm getting all the drugs out of the ground over here, and this is my place. Don't touch it. I'm going to walk away and get some lunch. And then like a whole gang of people, because you can start just like a roving gang with your friends, can go and raid this spice mine and take all your stuff. So that's kind of cool.
That's fun.
That sounds like
we
Rust.
love raids.
Yeah.
Let's agree about that. We love to raid.
So there we go, right? So that's the kind of stuff where I think it's like, that's going to come out. And then of course in the middle of all that, there'll be like some gigantic skyscraper tall worm that comes to eat you, which will be fun. And I think they'll probably get into like a lot of the customization stuff that Conan had, which was very detailed in hyper-specific areas that I won't get into here because this is a show for all.
Yeah.
Well, I think, you know, I want you to read off your bullet point joke that you wrote for this.
Yes.
It's a length joke.
You'll be able to customize the length of your sandworm.
Yes.
We'll see.
I get it.
Confirmed.
Get it?
Yeah, I got it.
Thank you, everybody.
So yeah, but we don't really know like when this game's coming out or anything like that. Like it's just it's 2020. I think it's 2023 for now, or actually not even. It's just here's this thing we're making it. It's a CG trailer, so. Keep it locked.
Well, now's the time. The last year, there's Dune movie came out. Everyone's crazy about it. Part 2 is coming, so they want to capitalize on all that. So I would imagine they want to try and get it out sooner than later.
Yeah, they're on the hype train, so they need to continue doing it.
Sooner than later. Well, Dune Awakening doesn't have a release date just yet. You can go play Funcom's Conan Exiles game to hold you over. Maybe give you an idea of what to expect from Dune, the length of Dune. We've got tons more video game coverage ahead, so keep watching IGN Live at Gamescom for more.
How you doing?
Doing okay.
All right, so we are going to the retro games booth, which is going to be super cool because growing up, I actually wasn't allowed to play video games very much because my parents were like, no, you got to focus on school, you got to read some books. So now that I'm an adult, of course, I work in video games. So I'm super excited to check out some of these games that I might have missed as a kid. So it's going to be super cool to be able to play older games because, you know, Gamescom, you think about like all the new games that are coming out, but we got to show the older games some love too. So I'm super excited to check out what games we have here. Okay, so we're in the heart of the retro area. I guess you can tell by the stage there where they're getting set up, so don't look at their passwords.
yeah, but we've got the GameCube over here, SNES, and 64, like everything that you could ever think of, it's here, which is so cool. Also, actually, if you look over there, there's like Daytona USA too, so you even have like the old retro racing games too, which is so cool. Again, I've never played any of these except for Banjo-Kazooie, which looking at this, I'm like, does this count as retro? So now I feel a little bit in over my head, but it's super cool. Now I can play any of these that I want. So I know Sonic Frontiers is here, but we always have to remember where Sonic came from, and now I'm going to try to play a Sonic game for the first time ever. Yeah, it's not going to go well. All right, so I saw cute little frogs, had to come over here. Have no idea what this is about. It is a 4-player game, and it's all in German, so why not? We're at Gamescom. I am happy to report that I won that game because no one else is playing, and it definitely requires multiplayer. But it's really fun. It's really cute. So you hop around as a frog, and you use your tongue to push off the other frogs. Okay, so it says it's Internet City, and it has Sega under it. So my producer touched the panel a little bit, and it's just jump shoot. So pretty straightforward, right? Yeah, it was a little hard figuring it out, but once I did, it was super cool. Honestly, I love the fact that I'm this like cool hooded like armored guy with this gun, but I can also turn into like Sonic for a second. It's pretty cool. Okay, so my producer is making me play this rhythm game, and I'm really bad at these kinds of games. I have never played this before in my life, so I have no idea what to do. So I guess I'm doing it to make his day better. So let's go see how bad I suck. I had 53 misses. I don't want to talk about it. So I said this was a retro area, and I got a little confused when I saw the Switch stuff, but that's because they're all retro themed in the gaming world. So like you got the Famicom controllers here for your Switch if you want. You've got all the different games here. Don't look at the Fortnite one. Just don't look at the Fortnite one. Yeah, it's so cool. Like you have all of these different designs and stuff too. Oh my goodness. I actually have a Switch, so like I can go back and play some of the retro games on the Switch, but I know it's not the same, which is why like these controllers are probably great for experiencing those games again. Okay, that was a lot of fun. I'm honestly so glad that this retro section exists because I don't know, if you're like me and you missed out on these games, it's really nice to be able to come here and just kind of experience them. And plus you have people who like explain the backstories and like how these things came to be, and it's really cool. It's really cool to see where companies started and then also see what they're doing at Gamescom. So, very cool section. I'm definitely going to be back here.
Well, my friends, we are at the end of day one of Gamescom Studio Live on IGN, but fear not, we have plenty more planned for the rest of the week. Brian, what's the plan for tomorrow?
Ooh, I was going to wake up early, go for a run. The hotel has an amazing breakfast. It's like a breakfast buffet, really impressive spread of fruits, meats. They got Nutella, which I love. I put on everything.
It's true. The hotel does have a great breakfast spread, but I was meaning, what's the plan for Gamescom tomorrow?
Oh, so sorry. Well, we have some huge stuff. First, we're getting spooky with the newly revealed reboot of Alone in the Dark and The Devil in Me, the latest entry in the Dark Pictures anthology. And finally, we'll delve into unthinkable terror of the Cosmic Shake, the tale of a porous monstrosity from the depths within angular trousers known as SpongeBob SquarePants. Oh yeah, and then some obscure indie game called Street Fighter 6 or something. I don't know. Have any of you guys ever heard of that before?
Not ringing a bell. And remember, those are just a few of the games we'll be checking out. Before we go, we want to give a quick shout out to Gamescom Goes Green. This is the initiative to make Gamescom the first climate-friendly gaming event in the world by taking emission-reducing measures and working with Climate Partner to support energy projects in Brazil and clean cooking stoves in Nigeria.
That's right. Now, this is obviously just a starting point for what's to come, so thanks to all participating companies and visitors for helping make it happen. Hey, while we're thanking people for stuff, a huge thank you to you for watching at home. It takes a ton of work to put together a live show like this, tons of Nutella, so we're glad you took the time to join us. They're not sponsoring us or anything. I just love them. They're great.
Big fan of you all out there. We'll be back tomorrow with plenty more Gamescom 2022 live on IGN. We'll see you then.
See you then.
Gamescom 2022 is presented by Samsung SSD, essential for gaming.
Hey, you! Yes, you! Do you have funk? missing Gamescom. Relax. Gamescom is everywhere you want. Gamescom now. Register now.
In a world with non-stop news about Marvel, Netflix, and Star Wars, you need a show with accurate reporting, hard-hitting commentary, and me. I'm Akeem Lawanson, the host of The Fix Entertainment. Whether it's the latest superhero scoop, film fiasco, or anime announcement, I'll be right here covering all the latest in major studio headlines and pop culture news. Make sure to catch The Fix Entertainment wherever you watch IGN.
Tune into IGN1 for the latest news on your favorite releases, gameplay exclusives, and all the entertainment you can handle. And maybe even some you can't.
Cinefix on IGN1, your friendly Friday night home for film fanaticism.
You're watching The Weekly Fix, ready to fill you in on anything you may have missed in the world of gaming and entertainment.
Find it all in one place on IGN1.
They turned into a network. Who knew?